access to his personal records. They had separate bank accounts, so we can take, well, what you want from all of that. The list that you gave is unbelievable. 124,000 in a camper van, Fortnum and Mason's picnic hampers, a couple of lawnmowers, one for 3,000 quid, three dynamic Savile umbrellas, £970. The list goes. A wine coaster. I needed to look up what a wine coaster was. 3,500 quid. So the list goes on.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, serial murder, really depraved crimes, it's quite clear to me that the usual considerations around whether you should be lenient because of this context, whether or not there should be more room for rehabilitation in that context, just don't apply. From the simple commonsensical basis that if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
But this thing,
I don't want to take that risk.
If these kids genuinely, you know, and they are kids, everyone involves a kid. I mean, this is absolutely travesty. If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the street.
Yeah.
So there's now a label for children who skip school. You know, parents can't sort it out. In the old days, I used to think that skipping school was against the law. You know,
yes.
And parents used to be taken to court. Well, no longer anymore. They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home. Again, I keep saying, on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
Universities. Let's get everyone going to university. Well, I think a fundamental job of education is to prepare children for the society they're going to live in a positive way, i.e. prepare them for a job. You've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
Henry Novak's last words were, "I can't breathe," as he was handcuffed, having been stabbed not only in the front but in the back as well, Okay, he stabbed him in the chest twice, stabbed him in the face once, stabbed him in the back of the leg twice. I mean, what an attack. Let's wait and see what sentence this vile piece of garbage gets. Of course, none of it of which will bring back dear Henry. May his soul rest in peace.
It's just so shocking, Pete, I mean, this is... We're so used to criticising the police for mistakes. This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the 1st of June, and yes, I'm back, you lucky, lucky people. I survived a week of glamping in heat that was, I would say, would have made the continent of Africa seem cold. But we did it, the kids loved it, and we're live and exclusive across the United Kingdom. The Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show on Talk, the home of common sense. So much to tell you about, so much to get involved with. But as ever, on this show, we want your involvement, your views on the news of the day. 0344 499 1000. The A-team are in. Tommy's on the phones. 0344 499 1000. You can leave your voice note for Christian, who's going on holiday on Friday. We're all destitute. He's off to some exclusive place. Not. 0344 499 1000 for your voice notes, your text messages throughout the show. Big Mark, I say that only simply because his wife told me, is pushing all the buttons. Right, let's get to it. Brace yourselves and brace yourself, Keir Starmer, because Downing Street expected later to publish 1,000 documents, which will include bombshell texts and emails from Peter Mandelson and ministers. Last night, actually, the Met Police asked the Cabinet Office not to make some documents public. Interesting. The Times reports that Mandelson even contacted lots of Labour new MPs and said, oh, come for dinner. Networking even to the last minute. He, of course, continues to deny any wrongdoing, but it will be another embarrassing day for Keir Starmer. But don't worry, because Andy, I already believe I am the Prime Minister Burnham, is flitting around the north, running in the Great Manchester Run and telling the world that he has the answers to every problem, which is to shift this country still further to the left, borrow more money and screw us even more financially. And while I was away, the most extraordinary story, I cannot... The Sturgeon stuff, right? The husband, the embezzlement. The great story this morning in The Sun, he nicked 108... No, he not nicked. He bought 108 loo rolls just on the company, on SMP, just 48 hours before she urged the public to not panic buy at the start of the lockdown. I mean, this guy's a serial shopaholic. I mean, would you not notice? I mean, if you go back to your little terrace, it was an OK hooking house, wasn't it? Go back to your house, and suddenly there's a £2,500 salt and pepper pot. You wouldn't notice, Nicola. What are you talking about? And here's the best bit for me about Sturgeon, or Jimmy Cranky, as I call her. She spent years wanting to leave this country because she hates England, slagging off Boris Johnson and any government. She's now moved to London because everybody in Scotland doesn't like her. So much for Scottish independence, eh? You two-faced old... never mind. 0344 499 1000. The Conservatives planning to introduce ration cards for criminal benefit claimants to prevent them spending money on alcohol and gambling. I've talked about this for years. I make no apology for what I'm about to say. One people say, you know, why don't you just give out those things to everybody who's on benefits? There's an argument. I don't know what you think about that. Most people I used to talk to would probably trade them for drugs. But at the end of the day... shouldn't we be concentrating on getting more people off bloody benefits rather than giving them cards to spend money on? I wouldn't be giving criminals... but I'm sorry, I wouldn't be giving people money. Go and give something back. Maybe I'm a bit too harsh. The scheme is modelled on the Aspin cards given to asylum seekers, which cannot be used in betting shops or cash machines. Oh, great. So don't work, break the law, and you can just get some money from us. The funniest story of the day is that there is a well-known politician, ladies and gentlemen, who has missed me so much... that he wasn't prepared to wait till 7 o'clock. No. Forget your paper review, Carl. He has been badgering me all weekend to be on this show. We say a very good morning to the Deputy Leader of Reform UK. What a bright start to a June day. Richard Tice, good morning, dear boy. How are you?
Very good morning. Happy June, Jeremy. And I'm just I've got a vision of you glamping with 108 loo rolls. I mean, who's ever bought 108 loo rolls?
Well, mate, listen, I've got stomach problems, but Murrell, can we talk about Murrell? Because I wasn't here. In the name of sweet Jesus, he's obviously completely mad, but she's always been such a sour-faced, dour, miserable, you've got to do this and you've got to do that, and she slagged off Johnson and she slagged off anybody. I mean, are we supposed to believe that she knew... I mean, look...
Well, apparently she never went into the kitchen, so she didn't see the very expensive salt and pepper pot. I mean... it's just, the whole thing beggars belief. It really does. And now she's legging it. She's abandoning Scotland.
Yeah.
Coming down south.
I mean, that's a bit rich, isn't it, from somebody who's wanted independence views? I'm thinking about the future Mrs. T. If you'd been embezzling... I mean, this is just obviously a little scenario, not that you need
Anywhere you're going with this, Jeremy.
Well, listen, all your money. Are you telling me that the future Mrs. T wouldn't stride into the Tice kitchen and realise there was a couple of 2-gram popper or what are they called, salt and pepper pots? Ridiculous. But the thing is, she literally sat on that BBC programme, Richard, and she said, I'm not apologising for my husband's crimes. Does she know how hated she is in Scotland? I suspect not.
The whole thing just beggars belief. Absolutely beggars belief. The fact that there was a 100 grand motorhome just sitting in the drive of the in-laws. I mean, it's impossible to seriously believe that she knew nothing about this. But there we are. He's been caught out. He's guilty, and let's see what the sentence is.
I've got lots to talk to you about, but I've got a very quick clip. This is Sturgeon. She went on Coonsberg yesterday, peeps. Love your thoughts, by the way. 0344 499 1000 ASAP. This is her on... I know there was a 125-gram motorhome that we bought, but I never saw it. Morning, Nicola.
My mother-in-law, or my mother and father-in-law's house, has a driveway in front of their house where we would park our car, and then we'd go into the house. Where the motorhome was round the side of the house, which is not immediately visible in the way that we went into the house. And it's between their house and the next door neighbour's house. Now, I genuinely don't have any conscious memory of seeing that motorhome. If I saw it, I probably would have assumed it was a neighbour's.
Because they're really small motorhomes, aren't they? Weeny things. I mean, the light wouldn't have come through our in-laws' parents' windows because... ridiculous, man. I can't even...
Genuinely, Jeremy. Genuinely.
Genuinely. Let's talk about today, Trick. This is extraordinary. Brace yourself, Keir. It's funny, in all that's been going on with Burnham while I've been away, everybody seems to just acknowledge that Keir Starmer's brown bread. 1,000 documents to be published by Downing Street today, including bombshell texts and emails between Mandelson and ministers. But Met Police last night reporting that they asked the Cabinet Office not to make some documents public as they could have a detrimental impact on the investigation, which says that he's banged to rights as well, I suspect.
Well, this is actually very troubling indeed, because the summary vetting document that sort of brings everything together, that the Cabinet Office had previously said, and ministers had previously said, would be made available to the Intelligence and Security Committee. Now they've actually backtracked on that and said, no, sorry, chaps, we're not going to disclose that. The whole point of only disclosing it to the Intelligence and Security Committee, called the ISC, was so that they could look at it privately in complete confidence and give a sort of a summary to people without actually disclosing it. Therefore, not in any way actually breaching the requirements with regard to the possible case against Peter Mandelson. And look, there's a balance to be struck here, but I think members of Parliament will be very, very, very concerned that that balance is wrong and that the government is guilty of some form of cover-up, because that summary document is a critical document that we all need to understand what's in it and how on earth Mandelson was approved. It feels to me that they've got something to hide.
I mean, it looks like that, and you can only look at it and think maybe that's the scenario. The interesting thing is, though, I wanted to ask you this. Starmer's going to go. I read an article yesterday that said his allies would like him to limp on for 6 months. As I say, the king of the cocky king of the north is already, you know, apparently approaching people for cabinet posts. But do you think that the Mandelson thing dies on the altar of Keir Starmer's failed premiership? Do you think that it will always be his judgment, or does it in fact smack more about the Labour government in its entirety, Richard?
Well, I think a lot depends on the extent of the messages that Mandelson appears to have been sending to all manner of ministers and cabinet ministers across the Labour government, when frankly they had nothing to do with him, and you know, his remit didn't cover them. So I think, but obviously the rest of the Labour ministers will be distancing themselves as fast as possible and saying nothing, you know, not on my watch, Gov. It was all secure, and they'll be raining it down on him for sure.
I want to talk briefly. We have to, we'll get to you. I want to talk about Manchester in a minute, but we obviously, when we're doing any sort of programme, you know this from your days here, there's a thing called Purdah when we're talking about the election. I know we can't go into detail about Makerfield, but Andy Burnham fascinates me. It's almost as if he's already decided that he's going to be the Prime Minister, which is sort of extraordinary. And then I was reading last week, chaos in the Tory party. Blair jumps up and says, I don't agree with Starmer, and Starmer says, I don't want, I'm going to hang on. And all these ministers are running around trying to suck up to Andy Burnham and distance themselves from Starmer. And in the meantime, the cost of living continues to screw most people in this country, and people are really struggling. And this government is not, I think, is as guilty, if not more guilty, than the last government of not only not doing what it said it was going to do, but completely ignoring what people are going through, Richard.
Well, there's a long way to go before Andy Burnham is Prime Minister. But what is clear is that all of the potential contenders to replace Starmer, they're all essentially hot-footing it further left, to the hard left.
Yeah.
And they're all distancing themselves from this extraordinary essay from the most successful ever Labour Prime Minister, Tony Blair, when he actually told them the facts of life about how to get the economy growing, how to get cheap energy by getting rid of net stupid zero, and many other things beside. And he talked about the failures of mass immigration, and they were just sort of running as far away as possible. So whoever replaces Starmer, it's pretty clear that they're going to take us to the left. And the more on premium in the bond markets will grow, and the finances will get worse, I'm afraid, before they get better post a general election.
It's really interesting. The Times this morning, I want to have a laugh because I've come back from holiday. The Times reports that Darren Jones, got to just point out, ladies and gentlemen, Darren Jones is the man who barefaced said on Newsnight, all those people that are coming on the boat, 90% of them are women and children. He's obviously blind or stupid. He's the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, a job that never existed before. Apparently he's considering running for the Labour leadership, pitching himself as the centrist candidate. I know, Richard's just dropped his head. Darren Jones reporting by the time he's considering...
Darren who?
Precisely.
Darren who?
And precisely. Apparently he would only run for the leadership if Starmer, who he loves, chose not to stand himself. I mean, honest to God. I mean, the whole thing, and you've got Wes Streeting running around trying to distance himself. I thought that was... I think it's really interesting, though, about Burnham. You know, I read an article yesterday. He's now odds on to be the Prime Minister, and he's more popular than anybody else. But nobody's really scratched the surface with Andy Burnham yet, have they? You know, here's the thing that I want to ask you as a reform person, right? Let's say he does win, right? Let's say he ends up challenging Starmer and wins the election. I've always said this, and you and I have disagreed about this in the past. I don't think he can be the Prime Minister if he's going to change policies. I think he has to go to the country and say there's a new manifesto. I think it is fundamentally wrong for anybody to become Prime Minister without facing the British electorate. Thoughts?
Well, if he's going to stand on a very, very different electoral platform, taking everything and taking the country and all of us poor victims therein to the hard left, then that is a completely different scenario. And yes, he should bring on an early general election. Apparently, he seems to think he'd win it. I think we've got news for him. I don't think he's got a cat and hell's chance. From the messages that I get from people when I knock on doors, people are raging furious, absolutely furious. And I can tell you, the big thing that people are still so angry about is the boats, the illegal migrants. And, you know, Burnham is all soft, gooey and cuddly and thinks it's all fine and has a woeful track record on that front. I mean, we call him flip-flop Andy. I mean, he's just U-turning on everything. He wants to rejoin the EU, now he doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, he wanted to... he doesn't know where he stands on the whole trans
Just
debate.
wants to be elected. My belief, looking at him, and I'll list all the people as I have to in the Makerfield by-election in a minute, but my whole point is, for me, I look at him and I just think, whether you're cocky or you're convinced or whatever, you need to be very careful, because the British public are quite good at not always saying what they're thinking, but voting with their feet. That's all I would say, and I think he has to be. What did you respond? By the way, this astonishing story this morning. Trade union members are as likely to support reform as they are Labour, a poll out today. Trade union members? For goodness sake, that was the lifeblood of Labour. What's going on, man?
Well, it just shows how far wrong Labour have gone and how well Reform are doing. We are perceived by union members as the party of Alarm Clock Britain, the party of the doers and the workers who get up and go to work, particularly around sectors, the industrial sectors, whether it's chemicals, whether it's oil and gas, whether it's refining, whether it's steel making. We're seen as the party who understand, to be a rich nation, you've got to have cheap energy, and to have cheap energy, you've got to use your own oil and gas energy treasure. It is as simple as that. And workers up and down the country, they know that. And their union leaders are sort of understanding that actually the members have a very, very different view to what one might historically expect.
Couldn't agree more. Just to finish, and I have to talk to you about this because I was on holiday last week. I literally have a friend who was so raging about this. He was literally shouting at me down the phone. The brothers accused of assaulting police officer, Mohammed Faiz Ahmad and Mohammed Ahmad, that police officer at Manchester Airport, will not face a third trial. I am not an expert, Richard, right? But we know that there was video footage of them kicking a policeman. It caused outrage. And then half an hour later, the real footage emerged. These two face trial for grievous bodily harm against that police officer, who's still suspended, by the way. I don't know, you'll have to fill me in why the first two trials... I know that you only need two people to disagree on a trial benefit, and I'll let people make up their own minds on that. This is an absolutely disgraceful miscarriage of justice, isn't it?
Well, let's remember, Jeremy, it was actually on your show one afternoon at 4 o'clock when I said something odd has gone on here, because I saw the two tasers that were out, and I got lampooned by everybody for 3 days until the true footage emerged, because I actually stood up for the police officers, and I was proven 110% right. And the video you've just shown shows Mohammed Ahmad punching PC Marsden at least 6 times, what looks like in a very hard, aggressive way. And unbelievably, the jury have concluded that that wasn't an assault on police officer. I mean, it absolutely beggars belief. It really does. It's crystal clear. And, I'm absolutely fuming. I really am. I mean, it's just beggars belief.
And I presume, and again, we have to be careful, that how do I put this? That certain people on the jury have decided that he's innocent irrespective of the facts.
Well, I'm assuming the jury were shown the video that you are now playing.
How can you not find him guilty? It's an absolute disgrace.
That guy, he's literally punched PC Marsden at least 6 times.
Dreadful.
And the idea that that is not an assault on a police officer is completely absurd. And it does, it's tragic to say because, we trust and rely on our jury system, and we don't want David Lammy to reduce it. But something has gone very badly wrong here indeed. It's, this guy has got away, apparently, scot-free.
And what message does that send, by the way? That says that, certain situations. I mean, is this going to be? That's literally it? This guy is free. I saw the pictures of him walking out of the court with a smile on his face, and he's beaten the living daylights out of a policeman. It's beyond me, mate. It's beyond me.
And me too. I mean, it really is shocking.
Disgusting.
Truly shocking. And the fact that it took 3 days for the true footage to emerge. And by the way, that true footage only emerged because a whistleblower actually leaked it, because Greater Manchester Police were not going to leak it. They wouldn't stand up for their own officers, which was something that we said at the time. And this whole case was only ever prosecuted because Nigel Farage and I said we were going to pursue a private criminal prosecution unless the CPS got off their backside and conducted a proper prosecution.
Is there any way on from this? Is that literally it? The CPS say no third trial. I know historically and all that, and I'm not allowed to say what I want to say, but is that it? They're scot-free off. There's nothing that can happen.
Well, let's just wait and see, Jeremy. Patience is a virtue.
All right, we'll leave that with you. Listen, I know you missed me. Were you happy to be first on today?
I'm delighted. I'm honoured to be your first guest back on the 1st of June, Jerry. Nice to see you up. You've survived your glamping.
Yes, and I bought you and Mrs. T. I must say, the future Mrs. T and you are going to love your new pepper and salt pots for your wedding. That'll be lovely, won't it? And the motorhome that will be parked up the side of your castle.
Richard, on a honeymoon in a motorhome, maybe.
Yes, lovely. You won't let me stay in the hotel. You're a legend, mate. Thank you so much indeed. Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Ty, 6:21. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Talk Breakfast. Yes, he's back. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Can I just tell you, obviously, we want to be able to talk about Andy Burnham, but there is a Makerfield by-election. It's the law that we tell you about all the candidates. Jake Austin stands for the Liberal Democrats. Count Binface for his own party, Count Binface Party. Andy Burnham, of course, the Labour Party. Dan Clark, the Libertarian Party. John Dyer for the Independents. Ed Gemmell, the Climate Party. Paul Gould, the Independent. Alan Howling, Lord Hope, the official monster raving loony party. Robert Kenyon, Reform UK. Robert Pownall, Protect the Wild. Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain. Sarah Wakefield, the Green Party. Peter Ward, Rejoin the EU. And Michael Stanley, the Conservative Party. That's your list of candidates. 0344 499 1000. Morning, Liam.
Morning, Jezza. Welcome back. Liam and his lorry. Wonder if you and your team could help. I woke up this morning to leave for work and I've got a new car. I can't believe I got a new car. I've got new trainers and I've got these weird, like, gold-plated cutlery and things like that. I've got all this new stuff and I genuinely don't know where it come from. But I haven't seen the new car because obviously I walked straight past it, so I didn't know. But genuinely, can you guys help me out? Have a great show.
they found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
You know, you've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the streets.
This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 6:25, Monday the 1st of June, and JK back in control. And ladies and gentlemen, the paper reviewer is 25 minutes late today. Not because he is late, but because Richard Tice insisted on going first. We say a very good morning to a man who is suffering. Now, he is saying it's hay fever. We believe that success has gone to his head. You might have heard him sounding brilliant on Saturday and Sunday on Talk. I got him the gig. I taught him everything he knows, and this morning he's in tears because he's the other side of the desk. Charlie Rowley! Hinge is back! Hinge and Bracket are back together!
Good morning. It's good to be back. And I'm very happy to be this side of the desk. Anytime with you.
You never mind which side of the desk you are with me, do you? How was it, though, over the weekend? I mean, obviously for the listeners, they've complained, but what about for you? Did it go all right?
No, well, it was good fun. Lots of suggestions yesterday to help me with hay fever yesterday, which was very helpful from the listeners. But we covered the Manchester airport situation, which is absolutely awful.
I mean, just talking to Richard Tice there, I was away. I'm sorry, I mean, I know what I can't say, but this comes to the makeup of a jury, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally.
And if it comes to we've talked about sectarian voting, which is definitely taking place across this country. I mean, I don't understand how footage that shows a man being kicked in the head is not dealt with. And if there is pressure from wherever and for whatever reason, what does that say about our legal system? That's all I'm worried about, genuinely.
Oh, well, absolutely. And that's the question, because, you know, you've got on the one hand judges that aren't prepared to sentence, you know, young boys, teenage boys for rape using their phone, using a knife, and a judge saying, well, because of good behaviour, I'm not going to put you behind bars. You've got a judge, you know, who seems to be on the left wing sort of, you know, campaign organisation, you know, no end sort of guy who just wants to get those boys off. Nothing to do with the victims or no. And then you've got a jury that, you know, is plain as day when you've got two men who assaulted somebody in the Starbucks in the airport before this whole situation flared up. So it's clear as day to me and everyone else, and anyone that's got a bit of common sense about them, why they're not behind bars, why they haven't had a criminal sentence passed. It's beggars belief, as Richard said.
Who do you want to do first, Sturgeon or Mandelson? Come on, Hinge. Who do you want to do first? Because I can't believe this Sturgeon story.
Let's do Sturgeon.
I literally, you know, I played you a clip about. I didn't know the motorhome was. I go through my parents' front door and never see it. Sat there. This is I mean, they reckon he squandered, or rather pilfered, is that right, or embezzled? 400 grand, Peter Murrow from the SNP. He bought things like a motorhome, 2 cars, a Jaguar, a £3,000 coffee machine, a £2,000 set of salt and pepper shakers, luxury watches, a custom-made library ladder, a Grand Theft Auto video game, a onesie and a Dyson hairdryer. He's bald, by the way. This is he's bald. What do you want a bloody hairdryer for if you're bald? Did his hair forgot to bring it? This is Sturgeon when questioned by Kunzberg on the onesie and the watches. This is unbelievable. Watch this.
Some of them were very basic. He even spent a few pounds on new toilet seats or a onesie. But he spent thousands of pounds on watches, thousands of pounds on pens, some of which you were pictured using. Expensive handbags as gifts for you, thousands of pounds on several coffee machines.
Oh.
These were a whole series of items that were far out of reach of the normal family.
We weren't a normal family. I was the first minister of the country. Expensive watches. I never saw those watches. I until they were asked about in the context of a criminal investigation, I didn't know they existed. You mentioned a onesie. Never ever saw it. A coffee machine. We had a nice coffee machine in our house. We were on salaries that would not have made me question how we could have afforded a decent coffee machine.
So Peter Morrell is a secret onesie wearer. I mean, honest to God. I mean, shit. Apart from the fact, sorry, I don't like her. I've never liked her. apart from the fact that you can tell that she's cornered, right? Defiant Sturgeon, male, page 8. I'm not apologising for someone else's crimes. Well, you were married to him and shared a bed with him, right? So either you are completely stupid, but the hypocrisy of this woman to now abandon Scotland and be living in London whilst trying to create some sort of media career. She's finished. Jimmy Cranky, you're finished. Deal with it.
I think you're absolutely right. And it's that question about their relationship, really. That's what it comes down to. Because, I mean, you know, I don't want to get too personal about, you know...
You're going to tell me it's a marriage of convenience, aren't you?
Well, that is a long-standing rumour, and you know, whether that's proven or not. But the point is, if you go and visit your in-laws, I mean, call me old-fashioned, but, you know, there's really not that much you talk about, is there, with your in-laws? When you pop round, you might see them regularly. So you would have thought an element of small talk would be...
Who the bloody hell bought that huge motorhome that's next door? Have Jan and Keith bought a new motorhome because it's blocking out the daylight here?
Just a bit of small talk.
No, I was the First Minister. I never saw a watch. You were wearing it, you conniving...
Exactly. And anyone in a relationship with anyone, you would know, I think, or you would at least be highly suspicious that all of a sudden... these things appearing, these items in the household are appearing. You know,
well, have you been in a relationship where stuff's appeared?
No one's ever asked me to be in a relationship, Jeremy. So in fact, I'm single by choice.
Yeah,
just usually other people's.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. Yeah, it's all gone hopelessly wrong, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, what she's expecting us to believe, to me, is just extraordinary. And the front of the woman to make you think, oh, well, that's fine.
Yep.
And here's the other thing, which we haven't said already this morning. I was reading while I was away in the tent that she literally refused to answer any police questions, so said no comment. Why didn't she defend herself like she has in that interview with Kunzberg, unless she had something to hide?
Absolutely, for about 7 hours as well. I think it was all just no comment, no comment, no comment. And, you know, what she could do, and clearly hasn't done, is apologise and just say, look, I don't believe it for a second, but let's say she says, as she has done, I was none the wiser. I had no idea about any of this spending going on, but I am so sorry. We did have a different lifestyle to most people. We did have high salaries. We did have high incomes, so I wasn't aware of some of these items that were being purchased, you know, but I am so sorry. I've had the wool pulled over my eyes, just like everybody else. This is an outrage. Instead, she's just point-blank fused to apologise.
Fused or refused? Refused. Just fused together now. She can't move. Fused to morale.
Yes, well, that was one of the other items.
Yes, dear, that was. Yes, absolutely.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, you know, no one's buying this at all.
Well, he is. What about 108 loo rolls? I mean, and hair straighteners for a bloke who's bald.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that, you know, that. Well, it's not clear at all whether, you know, what their marriage was like. But
what were you talking about? Rumours about a marriage of convenience?
Well, there have been rumours for a long while that they had sort of separated,
right?
And they were living sort of parallel lives or separate lives. So, you know, it's perfectly plausible in that sense, if that was the case, that you know, Nicola Sturgeon would be none the wiser. But still, if you're putting up that front as First Minister,
she denies all wrongdoing, and we have to keep saying that. She denies all wrongdoing. In fact, was released, I think, after questioning by the Scottish police, and no charges. He's obviously facing a bit of jail time.
But also...
Old Murrell. That'll be interesting, won't it?
But also questions about the investigation. So when they were quizzed, I think it happened after a set of local elections. So, you know, the problem that's always been the case in Scotland, particularly with the SNP, is that they have been able to infiltrate every part of Scotland, the SNP, whether it's in the criminal justice system, whether it's in police...
Oh, hold on, we're back. Well, hold on. We've had the... I didn't see the motorhome. I never saw the motorhome too. I know I was wearing the watch, but I didn't know it was pilfered. I just thought we could afford it. There was also a Jaguar that arrived on the front, not on the front of the house, on the drive. It wasn't a particularly large house. I think you'd have known if a Jaguar... This is Nick. Come on, Nick. Give us it about the Jaguar, love. Come on, here we go.
He bought a Jaguar car worth more than £80,000. That sat in your driveway. Did you never have a conversation about where you got the money for?
I didn't drive. I had no interest in cars. He bought a Jaguar. He wanted to change to an electric car. He told me that, you know, the range on the Jaguar was one that he thought was good. And I know a Jaguar is an expensive car, but we were on high salaries. If he had been, I don't know, I don't want to be flippant about this, but if he'd been, bringing Tiffany diamonds into the house or something, but there was nothing that I saw. There's been, and some of this, if it wasn't so awful and so serious, and I have seen people laughing about it, a pepper grinder worth £2,000. Now, I genuinely don't know whether that is the pepper grinder that I was using in my house, but I also am genuinely not sure how I was meant to know it cost that amount of money. Now, I have been deceived, I've been lied to, I've been betrayed, as it turns out, over a lengthy period of time.
Did she say pepper grinder?
She did.
We'll leave that there. Can I just... I'm sort of astonished that this woman thinks that we're all that stupid. I mean, she paints the picture, which, and it's not us being rude here, of almost a relationship that was a convenient relationship where they knew nothing. I mean, an £80,000 car, you're going to go, that's a bit nice. Where'd you get that from? Oh, just thought I fancied a change. Just unbelievable. But it says so little about the poor people who believed in independence, put their hands in their pockets, and he pilfered it. I think, she can't come back from this anyway. But a really interesting article at the weekend, should remember, can't remember what it was, said that 3 or 4 examples of the men in her life who she always says, oh, they weren't what I thought they were. Alex Salmond. There was a guy who was done for sexual offences, a financial guy, can't remember his name, it was one of the papers, and her own husband. And they go, oh, so suddenly this politician who's supposed to have the world at her feet and knew everything, doesn't even know anything about anybody around her, and does it point at her as a character?
Yeah, absolutely. It just doesn't add up. And look, the idea that if she is the cook of the house, if she says there in that clip,
you can't assume because she's a woman that she'd be the cook.
She said there that she wasn't sure whether that sort of pepper grinder was the one that had been bought, whether that was the new one or not. Well, hold on, if you are the one,
had she been grinding that pepper pot in the house?
If you are the one that was cooking them, you might think to yourself, oh, I better ask just where this has come from.
This is quite a nice feel, this pepper grinder.
Or you might say,
the size of that bit at the top.
Well, yes, or you might say, darling, I need a new pepper grinder.
Right, let's just do a bit of role play. You're cooking.
I thought you'd never ask.
Yes, you're cooking and you come across the pepper grinder. You're Nicola Sturgeon and I'm Peter Murrell. I'll talk like that.
Yeah. Oh, goodness me, it's almost if they're in the...
Get on with it.
Oh, right, yes, so I'm grinding away in the kitchen.
Get on with it. You're supposed to say to me, we'll do this. Come on.
I'm sorry. Oh, darling. No,
hey?
Where did this pepper grinder come from?
I nicked money from me. I said, Peter, buy it for you. What are you talking about?
Oh, but we can't tell anyone.
We're not telling anyone. Just pretend you didn't know. Morning, Laura.
Morning, Jeremy. Morning, Charlie. Welcome back, Jeremy. Laura in Wiltshire. I just wanted to say, reference Nicola Sturgeon. I mean, the fact that she may or may not have noticed things is one thing, but why was she not, as the leader of the Scottish National Party, not more curious about the finances of the Scottish National Party? So I think that's the bit that really stinks. Anyway, keep digging. And also, could we get a photo of Charlie for the home screen when he's presenting? Yesterday it just said talk radio, and the rest of you have a lovely picture, and I think that's not very fair. He did a brilliant job. Great show.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 20 to 7. Peter Burrell here. No, I'm joking. This is Talk Time with Common Sense. It's JK at the controls and Charlie, Rowley, Hinge and Bracket are back in the seat. 0344 499 1000 as Tommy strides in with a cup of tea. It's all going well. We've talked about Sturgeon. What else is going to happen? Let's talk about Mandelson. Brace yourself, Keir, as I said earlier. Downing Street today, expecting to publish more than 1,000 documents, which include bombshell texts. What a great word that is, bombshell. And emails between him and ministers. But last night, interestingly, Charlie, the Metropolitan Police asked the Cabinet Office not to make some documents public as they would have a detrimental impact on the investigation. Richard Tice saying earlier, it's already been on, missed me that much, that the politicians, the MPs and the House of Commons will not look at this favourably. They demanded this. It was passed in a humble vote. We have to say Mandelson keeps saying no wrongdoing, nothing to see here. This isn't going away. But is this going to die as Starmer leaves, or will this engulf the whole of the Labour Party, do you reckon?
Well, it can absolutely do that, depending on what the content of those text messages, those emails, those WhatsApps reveal. But the police have got form on this, because I remember during the COVID sort of years and the Partygate allegations, where the police were also investigating, they asked the Cabinet Office not to release certain information at the time. I'm afraid the police have just got to speed up. They've had plenty of time, I think, now to investigate Peter Mandelson. They need to keep pace with what's happening. It's not the other way around. Because the intelligence, as Richard Tice was alluded to this morning, the Intelligence Security Committee, the group of MPs that are also looking into what content can be released, they have also put pressure on the Cabinet Office to say, hold on, you're blocking out a lot of content that actually you don't need to. So the Cabinet Office is under a lot of scrutiny because it is withholding far more information. It's being far too more cautious than what it needs to be. We need to see this. Parliament has demanded it. There's been a humble address that's approved it. We have an absolute right to see what was going on between Peter Mandelson, the inner workings of the people in Number 10, when he was appointed, how he was appointed, in a role which he now obviously should not have had. So responsibility needs to be brought out as to, with the...
I agree. I completely agree. I was interested. I was reading the only thing that Burnham said in the last 10 days, which I thought was probably quite clever, was when he said Islington's run the Labour government for far too long. And this is symptomatic. The Prince of Darkness, it started with Blair. You think Alistair Campbell, you think about Starmer, you think about all of them career politicians that... that will be for Andy Burnham. That will help. But this, the Times report say that Mandelson contacted many of Labour's new intake of male MPs to meet up for dinner. What? Charlie really went, why'd you go like that? Like that.
Well, you do.
Do you think there was a pepper and salt grinder there? Do you think?
I think I think all kinds of things. But alongside the backbench, those MPs, we know that he was also texting cabinet ministers.
Yeah, Wes Streeting, I think they're all up to their necks in it, to be perfectly honest, which is extraordinary. But they'll label it on Starmer. Loads of texts, 87222. Christian just came in and went, "Oh, you can see the text. Perhaps you should try reading them, you git." Morning, Jez. The Sturgeon thing. There's even footage of her using the bloody coffee machine. Oh, and apparently she never saw the Jaguar and the Volkswagen Gold sitting on her drive, says Nathan in Perth. Bill's in Cheshire. Morning, Bill. Mandelson documents withheld. If it smells like a cover-up, sounds like a cover-up and smells like a cover-up, it's probably a bloody cover-up. Morning to Cliff in Berkshire. Morning, JK. So the heat was intense in the tent, Jez. The gangster state states that my pension is a benefit now. I do hope that doesn't mean I will be issued with the Post Scrounger Express card to use. Nice. Keith in Nottingham. Morning, Jez. Hope your holiday went well. Next time you go away, why don't you go on a caravanning holiday north of the border? I hear that Sturgeon has a caravan that you can borrow. Very good. Diane from Bedfordshire. Morning, sweetheart. Listening to the bit on unions, this is the news today that it was quite shocking. Reform is as popular with unions in terms of support as Labour. Now, she says... you should ask Richard, why don't Reform start their own unions? So many of us have to join unions because of the nature of our jobs, but do not support Labour. Very interesting. Oh, hello. Why did I say that? Paul Hamilton. Morning, Jeremy. No hinge and bracket yet. Listening to the bit on unions, we've done that. Hope you had a good glamping trip. I noticed the Mayor of Manchester hasn't had much to say about the two thug brothers getting away with assaulting the police. Oh, yes, Andy Burnham is the Mayor. Why would he? Interesting point. Margaret. Say Margaret.
Margaret.
Is in Birmingham, not Wales. JK and Charlie, forget Starmer who is toast, forget Sturgeon needs eye testing. We want to know, has Charlie decided on a cat or a dog? What's this all about?
Well, I think I made reference to wanting to get a cat or a dog, actually.
Is this because your love life is so utterly barren?
It is utterly barren.
So what are you going for, a dog or a cat?
Something I told you in confidence. But thank you.
Think Sahara Desert, ladies and gentlemen. That is, in fact, Hinge's love life. So a dog or a cat? What are you thinking?
I think it's got to be a cat. I think I would love a dog, but
why would you want a cat?
Well, I've had cats. I've experience of cats.
Have you?
Which might surprise you. But,
yes, I'm very surprised you've had experience of cats.
But the dog would be lovely.
Yes, lovely. Back to Wales. Lovely.
And they are, man's best friend and all that.
How's the kitchen doing? Several people have asked me. Is it done yet? It's been 11 months. It was supposed to be 4 weeks. It's quite traumatising for her.
It's funny enough, it's still not 100% complete, but they are coming back to finish it, I'm told.
Do you think you should sue them? Do you think I should talk to them?
I think, well, why not?
I mean, you can't get a cat because your kitchen isn't finished. You can't get any sort of love life. You've got hay fever. You've got no Piriton. It's a nightmare today. And still, you are wonderful to work with.
This is the highlight of my life.
Jez, for $3,000, I would want to be flown to Brazil and have my coffee served to me on the beach, not from a frigging machine, says Ian. Lovely. Mark in Whitstable in Kent. Have you been to Whitstable? Great oyster place there. It's my first ever radio gig.
I have been.
In Victor FM. Whitstable. Serving the south of Kent and a lot of this beach. Didn't you know Peter Murrell appeared on Bullseye? There's a boat round the back. There's a boat round the back. Very good. Look what you could have won. Jez, I live listening to your programme. I love listening to your programme, but last Monday when Ian Collins filled in for you, with Charlie as his compatriot, it was one of the funniest things I've ever heard. Ask Charlie about farage or fanage. Fanage. What's fanage?
I think it was...
Is that as in...
well, no, I think it was one of the hottest days of the year that we had.
Yes.
On Monday, and...
Was hot in a tent?
Well, it would have been probably warmer outside the tent. Cooler outside the tent.
Brilliant. Yes, go on. Fanage.
Well, I think it was some sort of... I mean, the heat does funny things to people, doesn't it?
Fanage. What's fanage?
Well,
how big your fan is?
I think we...
How much air comes out of your fanage? Is that it?
I think we got lost in the yeah.
Right, the use of the fan was known as fanage.
Well, that's...
So how big is your fanage? How much does your fanage blow out at you? That sort of thing.
That was Ian's take, yes.
Yes, and what was your take? You don't want to think about fanage, do you?
I was too busy helping a lovely lady called Lainey.
But we all have to sleep with a bit of fanage, don't we, in the heat?
Speak for yourself.
Is that not something that you contemplated?
Any fan will do.
Brilliant. I'm loving being here. 0344 499 1000. By the way, for old time's sake, just for you, my darlings, 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. This is a brilliant thing on Sturgeon. This was a gaffe, right, that the BBC once did. This is unbelievable. Charlie, this is for you. Turn the fanage up, have a watch.
Hello, this is Breakfast with Naga Manchetti and Charlie State.
It's 6:30, it's Friday the 14th of October. Let's tell you what's coming up on the programme. We're going to be joined by Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon. We'll talk to her about plans for a second referendum on independence.
I'm sorry, we've very clearly run the wrong pictures of that particular sequence. My apologies there.
They played Jimmy Cranky. That's where it came from. It's brilliant. But she didn't she didn't see it because she hadn't got a television. I know we bought the television with funds from the estimate, but she didn't see that.
No.
0344 499 1000. You're waking up to the news that Downing Street's about to release 1,000 messages, documents, bombshell texts and emails between Mandelson and ministers. Downing Street standing by for that. Nicola Sturgeon saying overnight, I'm not going to apologise for the fact that my husband stole £400,000 from the SNP and bought me stuff that I wore and used, but I didn't know it was used in and ration cards under the Conservatives, all going on. And Charlie Rowley, as the temperature decreases, no longer centres his mind on fannage. Back in 3.
Current affairs, international news, letting criminals off while sending... Oi! Oi! You shut up! I'm trying to record something.
Stand by for 3 powerhouse hours of breaking news, challenging views. I don't give a flying damn about international law. I think people will viscerally reject this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to 8 minutes to 7. You know you started later, Hinge. Can you just stay after the news? Because I'm a very busy man.
Yes, of
Is
course,
that all right?
of
Thank you very much, Steve. Peter Morell, why did a man with such a wide parting, bald as a cue ball, need to buy himself a 350 grand Dyson hairdryer? Morris from Epsom. I couldn't agree more, Morris. You're very kind. Now, 0344 499 1000. Loads to talk about. We're going to quickly shoot to the United States of America. I have missed her. Although I have to tell you, she texted me at 4 a.m. the other morning out the blue and said, I'm cheating on you. Kinsey Schofield, good morning.
I mean, I was with Harry Cole. It was a joke.
Just saying, I was particularly traumatised, sat in my tent, which was hotter than Satan's backside, to be perfectly honest, I imagine. Not that I've been anywhere near Satan, but I'm just being honest. But I was traumatised for the whole weekend. How are you?
I'm so sorry I did that to you. It'll never happen again.
No, do. It was funny. It was funny. And there's Cole eating sticky toffee pudding, by the way, at sort of 2 o'clock in the morning. Kins, how are things in the States? We had a heat wave here. What are things like with you lot?
It's getting warmer here. I mean, I feel like politically things are a little chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
Trump just canceled our 250th anniversary concert because some of the acts had pulled out. And I think that he just thought, well, to heck with it. We'll do something else. We've got our elections here in California are June the 2nd, which is really exciting to watch. I think Spencer Pratt really has a chance. Mr. Hilton, I think, is doing really well as well. So a lot to watch for here in the States.
In fact, Harry Cole in California, and we're reporting on those elections on this show. Lots to talk to you about, as ever, not much time. Prince Harry under fire. His African charity, African Parks, persistent allegations of violence and abuse by its rangers against Indigenous people. He faces calls to step down, rape and torture. It just follows him, doesn't it? Bad news. Unbelievable. The other one he resigned from as well, Sensible, whatever it's called.
Sentabale, you're correct. And I mean, there is some pushback from some of the veterans that participate in the Invictus Games asking what he truly contributes. So, we are watching closely what he contributes to some of these charities post the Sentabale fallout, because they're currently suing him and have made allegations about what his contributions are and how his toxic brand, according to Senabale, according to some of this paperwork, how it can negatively affect the charities that he's associated with. So here we see him with African Parks Charity. We just learned that he recently attended an exclusive conservation at scale fundraising event for African Parks in Scottsdale, Arizona. Here people are saying, should you resign from your position at African Parks Charity, considering the fact that since 2025, we've known that they did an independent investigation and they did find that some of their rangers behaved inappropriately, potentially criminally. They will not disclose to the extent that their investigators found criminal behavior, but they admitted to some wrongdoing in a statement, but there really is a lack of transparency. People are saying, Harry, you're giving them credibility.
Yeah.
Why do you continue to associate yourself with them? Step aside, step down, and force them to change their behavior. But they continue to, it sounds like they're continuing to maintain the same leadership, which doesn't reflect well when some of these allegations were made while these people were in charge.
And it's interesting, isn't it, what you said, that almost everything he touches, many people are saying his toxicity, his brand is impacting on them, and he makes these judgments and things happen, and it just doesn't help. Also, just very quickly this morning, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, God, invited me to his private home. Jeffrey Epstein's personal assistant makes new claims against shamed royal. I've said it to you before. Prison, it just gets worse and worse, doesn't it?
It does, but I've kind of like hit my peak for being surprised by Andrew Mountbatten Windsor stories.
Yeah.
I'm like, where were you guys? Honestly, I think we need to thank Virginia Giuffre for the sacrifice she made. She's been one of the only people willing to go on record with her allegations. All of these other individuals are Jane Does, and they hide behind whatever, but they've got a story to tell. And honestly, it just makes me appreciate Virginia Giuffre even more, and it makes me sad that she's no longer here.
I couldn't agree more. And you sit and you think about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, and I've read some terrible things while I was away about him, and you just think how many people turned a blind eye, how much of the institution knew, how much of his family, passed it off. And it's almost on a daily basis. I don't know where it ends, but his behaviour is disgusting. This is quickly about Meghan. We've seen more of Lilibet in the past year than ever before, as royalists say family imagery is the only way that Meghan's lifestyle brand will even limp along to succeed. This is a woman who last week was fronting a campaign for not using social media with your kids, and then puts pictures of her kids up to make herself relevant. She's a hypocrite, isn't she?
A walking contradiction in almost every way, shape. Remember Harry's Travelist? He launched this company that will help us minimize our carbon footprint. Yeah. And this is the same guy who's on private jets left and right. So, no, I mean, she's a total hypocrite. Yes, she's using her children to make a buck. It's gross, and it's far worse than anything they predicted would happen while they were living within the British royal family. Meghan was like, oh, people are going to show up and take pictures of my children at school. That never happens for the Prince and Princess of Wales' children. And what you're doing is you're trying to sell a product through your children. I think that's gross. I think that's so gross.
And with both of them, just quickly, without being rude, because some people will phone and go, oh, you're being really unfair. They just seem completely not to get anything. There's no reality to what they do. The stuff they touch is a failure. They go back on things they stick up for, and they just seem to be in it for themselves, their image, their money, their brand. And I think the world, actually, not just the United Kingdom, I mean, the world sussed those two out. Grifters, both of them.
They're pay-for-play. They're pay-for-play. Not only pay-for-play royals, but they're pay-for-play activists, and they will jump on whatever bandwagon is trending and whoever's paying top dollar. But what do they stand for? It's been almost 10 years since these two started dating. Well, no, it has been 10 years since they've started dating, and we have no idea where their morals and values are. You know, who's their God? We don't know. Because
I agree. Listen, I have to jump in, not because I'm upset that you cheated on me with Harry Cole. It's just a joke if you're tuning in. We love you. We'll speak to you tomorrow. Thank you for staying up. The legend that is Kinsey Schofield. The news at 7 on the way. Charlie Rowley's going nowhere. We're doing Sturgeon and Mandelson next.
I've got some breaking news here. The Crowborough Army Training Camp could hold male asylum seekers all the way until 2030. Good. After the Home Office claimed it would only be for 12 months. Not much ambition involved in that, is there, in terms of solving the migrant crisis?
Absolutely, and the way that the Labour government gaslit the public when the migrants were first moved in there, saying, you know, you guys are absolutely being mad. Crowborough is a quiet, leafy town in East Sussex. These people, you can see, have been pushed to their absolute limit. They're not the types that you usually see protesting about this sort of thing. But that town has been absolutely desecrated.
You're ruining the country. Get Keir Starmer out. Look, England flag. You're useless. Labour parties are useless.
I love our country. And one of the things about our country is good manners. Not very British.
What Labour advisor thought she wasn't going to be heckled at a petrol station in Leeds? Do these politicians actually ever get out and understand what it's like for real working class people? I thought it was British to exercise a right to free speech. That's what Keith Stalin told Trump. That's what White Van Man was exercising yesterday to Richard III. Oh yes, I remember. We're not really allowed our right to free speech in case we criticise the government.
You can't blame people so many decades away from you for the chaos that has been caused by Labour.
This is cheap politics, isn't it, Syrian?
Well, it's stupid politics. I mean, who raised national insurance on part-time workers? Labour. Who's been the stupid people that have wandered down the road and increased taxes on businesses and on individuals? Labour.
A lot of people get very frustrated, especially when the government says, oh, free school meals, you know, for every kid, not just the kids who really need them, free bus passes, free this, free that. None of it's free. It's subsidised and paid for by the taxpayer. And we're in this constant situation where the government's answer to everything is tax us a bit more, take more of our money, and then give some more of it away generously. It's our sodding money they're giving away.
Yeah, exactly. And it's either someone else's money today, another taxpayer, or even worse, it's the money from our...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back or welcome along. Just gone 7 o'clock on the 1st of June, a pinch and whatever. This is Jeremy Kyle, live and exclusive. Common sense, that's what this place is about. Talk. If you want to be on, your views on the day's news are very welcome. We'd love to hear from you. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. You're waking up to two main news stories. Keir Starmer's bracing himself in Downing Street. Nice. They're about to publish 1,000 documents which could include and will include bombshell texts and emails between Mandelson and ministers and government officials will be quaking in his boots. And interestingly, last night, the Met Police saying, we don't want some of that released. It could affect our investigation. Other reports in the Times this morning that Mandelson spent a lot of time as the US ambassador, but contacting Labour's new intake of male MPs and asking them from dinner. Fine. He absolutely says, I'm innocent, there's no wrongdoing here, we'll wait and hear for that. 0344 499 1000. Send your voice notes in. And Nicola Sturgeon, Nicola? She says, I'm not going to apologise for my husband's crimes. In fact, he wasn't really my husband. I lived in the same house with him, but I really didn't even know that he was called Peter Morell. The fact that he's embezzled £400,000 from the SNP has nothing to do with me. Listen, I know he bought a motorhome and it was parked at my in-laws, but I'm going to play this clip. This is a £125,000 motorhome, right? And she wants us to believe that a man who's bald and spent 350 quid on a Dyson airdryer suddenly this appeared, but this is her excuse as to why she'd nothing to do with me. I don't know what you're talking about.
My mother-in-law, or my mother and father-in-law's house, has a driveway in front of their house where we would park our car and then we'd go into the house. Where the motorhome was round the side of the house, which is not immediately visible in the way that we went into the house. And it's between their house and the next door neighbour's house. Now, I genuinely don't have any conscious memory of seeing that motorhome. If I saw it, I probably would have assumed it was a neighbour's.
Right, so you didn't see the motorhome, and OK. The new Jaguar, he just checked, that was 80 grand. You didn't even question that. The £3,000 coffee machine, she said, well, on hey, salaries, these are coffee machines. Hey, not a problem. A 2,000, this is, Charlie Rowley's still here. £2,000 on a set of salt and pepper grinders, OK? And she was using those grinders, and she doesn't even, and today, he bought 108 loo rolls, ladies and gentlemen, on the SNP, just 48 hours before she went on television and urged the public in Scotland not to panic buy, because there was a COVID pandemic. This is her on sexuality. I don't know why we're playing this, but I'm having fun. Play it.
You've been open before, too, about your sexuality, that you wouldn't put a label on it. Have you found a new relationship? Is that part of how you're living your life differently?
I mean, tempting though it is to grab the headlines of this interview with a personal revelation of that nature. No, I'm not in a new relationship. I am managing to live a different phase of life in a way that I am starting to find some peace and happiness. You know, it's been a bit blown apart in the last week, but I am happier, or getting to the point where I feel happier.
Now, listen, it's not for me, Charlie. You are what you are, and there have been rumours about the fact that this was a marriage of convenience, and let's just make the point that Nicola Sturgeon denies any wrongdoing. I would offer in balance to that comment. There have been rumours for years about her and her husband. Maybe that's why she knew absolutely nothing about what was going on. But for a woman who's harped on for bloody years about how important it is that Scotland stands on its own 2 feet, at the first sign of trouble or being found out, she spent 7 hours in a police interview going, no comment, no comment, no comment, no comment. Right, OK. And now she's hot-footed it to London. She's moved to London because she wants to get away from the Ferrari. Yeah. Really? So much for independence, Nick?
Absolutely, and I think, look, what we're seeing just from all of these little tidbits that you're playing and things
Great
that are coming out of these from these interviews of Nicola Sturgeon. It doesn't add up. And look, you know, she clearly, by her own admission there, so I'm not speculating, and I wouldn't speculate on somebody's personal life. She's been very open about the fact that she, I think, would identify, I think she said, as sort of non-binary now, so we know, but that doesn't happen.
What?
I think she said she identifies as sort of non-binary. I think that's what she said, but someone will correct me if I'm wrong. But
I don't know what that is.
But that's not something that just happens overnight.
This isn't about her sexuality. It's about the fact was she aware that he was a thief?
But it relates to the relationship, and I think this is why it's important, because if you are a politician that stands next to your husband day in, day out, having photographs at SNP conferences year after year, portraying this image of a happy family, a stable couple, a man and a woman, because you've got a Christian element of the SNP, so you've got to still court members there. If that's the image that you're projecting to the electorate and your members, all the while having a very separate kind of personal relationship, or a separate kind
love it when you
something entirely different, or that's not as genuine as what you're trying to portray, then that can be called out.
All I can think of, and I know that Christian's hand is now going to hover over the dump button, is the programme that we're not allowed to talk about anymore, Little Britain, when David Walliams would play the politician and he'd say, I was on my way back from Westminster when I stopped off and stood outside the front, in front of all the press with his wife, and I just happened to walk into the motorway services and have a wee, and I looked down and there were several men. It's just, I don't care about her sexuality. I care, actually, genuinely, about Scots people who believed in independence and spent their hard-earned money. And this guy's done it. This is Karen, actually, from Scotland, and I really appreciate this voice note. She wants to know whether you know, Sturgeon could be prosecuted. Just have a listen to this. Karen, good morning.
Good morning from a very wet west coast of Scotland. Old Nippy. She may be guilty of a Scottish law known as reset, when you're profiting from gifts, etc., from possibly her little husband.
It's interesting. I don't know about the legal ramifications of that. There are obviously different laws in different places, but I do understand the real anger amongst Scottish people, don't you?
Oh, totally, because this is, I totally disagree with Scottish independence. I think that's pretty obvious, hopefully. But this was...
Well, she obviously does now because she's moved to London.
Well, okay, exactly. It's not so bad after all, is it?
No.
But this is money that was going specifically, paid
absolutely.
by members, paid by donors, paid by volunteers, to fight a second independence referendum. That was specific for that.
And what I don't understand is, apparently Christian was telling me this went on for years.
Yep.
So did nobody audit these accounts? Did nobody say, excuse me, First Minister? And was there not a case in 21 or 22, this is just off the top of my head, where she was asked a question at some open meeting and she went, nothing to see there, move on, the finances are fine.
Quite probably. But that is the grip that Nicola had and Peter Murrell over the SNP.
Salt and pepper grinder.
Nobody challenged it. Nobody would dare, because that is the way in which the SNP have operated. You know, you had Alex Salmond that was there for a long time. Yeah. He was the figurehead. Nicola then came in. But they have been... This is why it's so hard to believe that she didn't know anything, because to maintain that... power at the top for such a long time, without scrutiny, without any kind of questions being asked, you know, you would have thought she'd know a bit more about where this money's or where these gifts are coming from.
I talk about the finances. This is how good the team are on Breakfast at Talk. This is Sturgeon in 2021 when questioned about the SNP's finances.
I'm not concerned about the party's finances. The finances of the SNP are independently audited. Our accounts are sent to the Electoral Commission in common with other parties and, of course, published, so there's full scrutiny around that. Money hasn't gone missing. All money goes through the SNP accounts, independently and fully audited. We don't hold separate accounts. We're under no legal requirement to do that. Our accounts are managed on a cash flow basis, but every penny we raise to support the campaign for independence will be spent on the campaign for independence.
So that begs the question, if they're independently audited, we've got incompetent accountants as well. This isn't going away at all, not in a million.
No, absolutely. And again, more questions than answers, because, you know, how was it audited? What items were they listed as? Was it for work purposes? Was it not? Was it?
Let me repeat, a £350 Dyson hairdryer for a man who's not got one hair on his bleeding head.
Well, no.
So he's in jail waiting to be sentenced, is that right?
I'm not
sentenced in June or July, I hear, yeah. But, sorry.
No, but go on.
Morning, Jess, welcome back. I will tell you what worries me. Burnham collating his team for when he's PM. Why is he so sure he's going to win the by-election, says Paul in Spain. Let's talk about Labour. This morning, the Cabinet Office will release, Downing Street will release 1,000 documents to do with Mandelson. There'll be bombshell texts and emails between him and ministers. The Met Police have got involved. Lovely take on this, saying, please don't make all documents public as they could have a detrimental impact. That's quite convenient. Mandelson, this will bring down Starmer. Does it engulf the whole of the Labour Party? Does Burnham, does he get away with this because he hasn't been involved, do you think?
It could be played to his advantage, because you say he's not been in Westminster. He's been obviously the Mayor of Greater Manchester. But you never know. I mean, who's to say the extent of which these messages from Peter Mandelson have gone to, you know, who has been in cahoots or conversation with Peter Mandelson over the last 18 months or so, you know, until that drops this afternoon, which I think will be another set of terrible headlines for Starmer. You're absolutely right. It's hard to see how he recovers from this at all. But you're right, Burnham could play it to his advantage.
We don't want to get involved in the by-election that's taking place for obvious reasons. We have to be really straight down the line when we're broadcasting. But if he does end up in Parliament, is he a shoo-in for Prime Minister, Andy Burnham?
I think it would be, and I don't say this lightly, probably one of the most I was going to say criminal, but not criminal in the actual sort of,
not in the Peter Morell sense of the word.
But, the idea that he's somebody who's not even an MP today, and then becomes Prime Minister, tomorrow, without any kind of election that you were talking about at the
But
start.
your party changed leaders 3 times, and Rishi Sunak became Prime Minister without getting a mandate. Liz Truss became Prime Minister without becoming a mandate. That's a fact.
But they were cabinet ministers, and, whatever you think about Liz now as Prime Minister, I mean, she was one of the funny, one of the longest serving.
One of the funny?
I was going to say funny.
She is a funny lady.
Funnily enough, was one of the longest serving cabinet ministers alongside Michael Gove. She'd been Education Secretary, she'd been Foreign Secretary, she'd been Chief Secretary to the Treasury, she'd been Environment Secretary, she'd been Justice Secretary.
No, I'm not denying that. What I'm saying is, does anybody have the political right to become Prime Minister, either if they're not an MP or they're even in the Cabinet, if they haven't got a mandate from the British people? I've said this to whatever person I speak to.
I might be on the other side of that, just because I can understand.
You're on the other side of the fence.
I can understand. We don't want to keep having elections. But parties elected for the maximum of 5 years, set period of time. I think if you're in Parliament trying to deliver that in the first place, in which you're elected to, so 2024, the whole cabinet was elected as MPs. If Keir Starmer goes, and if one of those were to take on the mantle, I would think that's fine. What I don't think is fine is parachuting anyone in, it could be anyone, from outside, just to come in to Parliament to then become Prime Minister. And you're absolutely right, without going into Makerfield, some of the other stories around Andy Burnley, the idea that, Shabana Mahmood could be his Chancellor.
I thought she was on the right of the party. I thought he was going to lurch to the left.
Exactly. So he's trying to...
And all the Labour Party's doing at the moment is tearing themselves to shreds after... I read a bit about Tony Blair's sort of open essay about what this country needed, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, you're a hypocrite. You created the immigration problem, but actually you're speaking common sense. And apparently Kemi Badenoch almost said, come and join us, Tony, because he seems to realise, which is fascinating. Loads of response today. Nicola, many may have thought that the motorhome was the new garage, or Morell is a brilliant hypnotist. Goodbye. Can you believe that? Jezza, that Nicola Sturgeon interview was her Andrew Mountbatten moment. It's utterly bloody hilarious, says Ian C. in Didsbury. I can't tell you if it's a secret about Didsbury. Who is this new presenter? Have you worked on talkTV before? Oh, it's you, Jezza. My bad. Haven't seen you much lately. Are you going off holidaying again soon? Karen in Hampshire. Let me tell you, you've got 12 straight weeks of me, you lucky person not. Chris in Somerset. Good morning and welcome back, Jez and Charlie, of course. Now that we are back to the hinge and bracket moments, I would suggest that you have to be a little careful, since both hinges and brackets are completely useless if they're not well and truly screwed. Enjoy your banter. Keep it up.
Well, as I say, my love life's barren at the minute.
Talk, morning, hinge and bracket.
That's not the name of a person,
Thank
by the way.
you. Great show. Yes. I've got a thought. Morell bought the Dyson hairdryer to use on his fanage.
Well, you did say,
Fanage is strength of fan, ladies and gentlemen, before anybody is offended. It was nothing to do with me, Ian Collins, who did a masterful job last week, and you were talking about the strength of one's fanage.
Well, yes, it was one of the hottest weeks I think we've had of the year so far. So, the heat does funny things to people.
I mean, I live in Dorset, and Fanage sounds like a place in Dorset, doesn't it? I'm off to Fanage for the weekend. How hot is it in Fanage? Well, it blows a gale in Fanage, to be honest. We're right by the sea. It's quite wet in the winter. Honestly, no, and quite drizzly in the spring. Yes.
Yes, well, it could be any time of year, I suppose.
Lovely. Morning, Jez, Charlie. Liam from Accrington. I bet Starmer is quaking in his boots knowing these texts are being released. And Charlie? Liam, I'd happily date you.
Well, the offers are flying in this morning, aren't they?
Liam in Accrington, I can't imagine one offer. Let's not exaggerate. The offers are flying in. Sorry. Thank you, Christian.
Sorry.
Oh, the offers are flying in. Offers of summer season in Bridlington, dates and everything. No, you've had no work offers. We've had to beg for you to get a shift, and one bloke from Action says you take it. But it's better than last week.
It's only the 1st of June.
Yes, it's only yes. Jez, waking up in bed with Ian and Charlie last week was my wife's dream come true. I think this is from my wife, who, as you know, thinks that Ian Collins has got the sexiest voice ever. Charlie's advice to the lady who was being boiled alive in a static caravan will live with me forever. What did you say?
Well, it was just purely that Lainey, who got in touch to say...
Lainey? She was elaining in the caravan,
she was. She said, she didn't know what to do. It was about 46 degrees in her caravan.
Yeah.
How can she cope? And I just politely pointed out that it was only 32 degrees outside, so... maybe step outside.
Rob from Newcastle, in response to Morel, says, unbelievably, the same thing happened in a coffee machine shop, a luxury watch shop, a jewellery shop, an expensive pen shop, an unbelievably a hairdryer shop, and then a sports car shop. Luckily, my wife is really stupid and she didn't notice. I think that's probably very true. It does make you wonder about Morel. Yes, so it was their dream, Mark in sunny Selby, to wake up with you.
Well, I aim to please.
Or his wife's dream. You do aim to please. Listen, you've been amazing. Just very quickly before you go, I just want to do this. The Conservatives' plan, you'd know more about this. This is in the papers today. The Conservatives' plan to introduce ration cards for criminal benefit claimants to prevent them spending money on alcohol and gambling. A lot of people say let's go one stage further with all benefit claimants and give them cards so that they can't use it for drugs or... I used to talk about this on the telly quite a lot, but people will just trade the cards. I'd stop paying the money unless they give something back. Sorry, I'm a bit outspoken. I've said it for ages. If you're long-term... Not if you're mentally ill or disabled. Many genuine people happy to pay my taxes. I'm talking about the people who patently shouldn't be on the dole, who are taking the what's it out of us. I think they should be giving something back.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, a lot of people would be sympathetic to that argument. I mean, I think, how much can the state control someone in that sense, and how much does it maybe demean someone if you say, right, okay, we're giving you a bit of money.
Does it demean someone, a criminal who's come out of prison and can't get a job?
Well,
unless they turn their life around, I take that point.
Exactly, and I think, look, you can say, right, okay, you're getting a certain amount of support from the state in terms of finances, but you've got the responsibility. You've got to, make sure you've got that responsibility that you're spending it wisely. I think you then start to micromanage every part of everybody's lives.
But what is it why ration cards for criminal benefit claimants? Why not for migrant claimants? Why for people who've never worked payments? Why is it specifically from the Tories about that?
So I think this is an attempt to try and mirror what they do with migrants. So people that come over, and I mean, but again, the whole question is, why are we giving migrants these cards in the first place that come over illegally, that then get put up in the 4- or 5-star hotels or any hotels that the government can get its hands on? They are given these certain cards that does sometimes have an allowance on, which they can't use on drugs and alcohol. They can't use it in betting shops, for example. They can't trade them in. So the idea is to take that kind of approach and apply it to people on benefits. I mean, there's it gets people thinking about it. It's, I think, Kemi Badenoch's attempt to think, right, to say we are taking the big decisions. We are a new party under new management that's coming up with ideas to placate the right and to try and win back some of the voters that they might have lost. But they will always have the challenge, even in the run up to the next general election. Is they'll always be throwing the question, well, why didn't you do any of this when you had 14 years in power?
I look at Badenoch, actually. I wanted to say it to you briefly. She, I mean, I say it every week, I do think she's the right person at the wrong time. I think she's grown into the role. I think her performance, I think she misses things at PMQs, but she said, I mean, I was very critical that it took a year for her to say anything. And then there seems to be sense in a lot that she says. But you're right. The brand, the Tory brand, is toxic. And millions of people in this country will never forgive the Tories. And it won't happen in 5, it will be 10 years longer. The same is happening with Labour, which is why we now have a different political system. Listen, Jezza, working 12 straight weeks, come off, it'll be itching for a break after 3 weeks. There's a sunbed with your name on it lying empty. I haven't been on a sunbed. I've been boiling alive in a bleeding tent. Charlie Rowley, it's never the same without you. Why can't you come every morning to the show?
Well, you only have to ask.
I think we should have her more often. Lovely. Where are you off to now?
I might...
The clinic?
No. I will invest in a hay fever tablet.
I think you should. And when you're next in, could you please bring a £2,000 set of salt and pepper grinders? That's lovely. 7:22. Talk Breakfast back in 3.
Mr. Speaker, I know many members across the House will find these facts to be incredible. To that, I can only say they are right. It beggars belief that throughout the whole timeline of events, officials in the Foreign Office saw fit to withhold this information from the most senior ministers in our system in government.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning. Welcome to Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense. 7:25. JK in the chair. You're waking up to the news that Downing Street today will release over 1,000 documents, including bombshell texts and emails, between Peter Mandelson and ministers Keir Starmer and most of the government shaking in their boots, apparently. Don't know why I've done that. And Nicola Sturgeon says she won't apologise for her husband's crimes, despite the fact that he spent more than 400 grand of SNP donations on several things, like a motorhome, I don't know, coffee machines, salt and pepper grinders, a grand theft auto video, a onesie and a Dyson hairdryer, and he's completely and utterly bleeding bald. 0344 499 1000 this morning reported he bought 108 toilet rolls just before the pandemic, but she, a woman who stood up for years about Scottish independence, has hot-footed to London and is living in a flat trying to launch a career in the media. Nicola Sturgeon's favourite song, says this tech, is The Caravan of Love. Yes, very good. She didn't... I've got to do this before I speak to my next guest. There she is, coming out of her house in her leggings. What's she walking like that for? Oh, no, there we go. Where's the motorhome? Down the side? Can't see it. Where's the garage? Good morning. Let me just repeat. I've got to replay this, right? This is absolutely brilliant. This is her reason for not realising that the motorhome that cost 125 grand was parked right next to her parent-in-law's house. I didn't look at the motor. Have a listen to this.
My mother-in-law, or my mother and father-in-law's house, has a driveway in front of their house where we would park our car and then we'd go into the house. Where the motorhome was round the sides of the house, which is not immediately visible in the way that we went into the house. And it's between their house and the next door neighbour's house. Now, I genuinely don't have any conscious memory of seeing that motorhome. If I saw it, I probably would have assumed it was a neighbour's.
But you'd have asked, wouldn't you? Because suddenly there's this bloody great motorhome. What? I mean, oh, God, Rob, help me out. Morning.
Morning, Jez. Nicola Sturgeon. Everything that's wrong with politicians is there to see in her face, and a greedy, fat, bald husband. And no, Nicola, this is not fandabby-dozy at all, darling. And you should be finished, because you knew you can't live with somebody and not see all those things. Spending people's money when you took this righteousness to the nth degree as far as everybody else was concerned. This is the problem, that MPs in this country and in Scotland and in everywhere, really, they let the people of the nations down. Time and time again. They should all hold their heads in their hands, really, but they won't, because they're too greedy and interested in themselves and nobody else. What a shame it is, Jez.
I think he's true, and I just think back to this woman, I'm not sticking up for Johnson. She passed judgment every single day of the week, before, during and after COVID and the pandemic and this, that and the other. And Rob's right. If you set yourself on a stool that makes you out to be, you know, greater than anything, it's a long way down. Let's say a very good morning. I'm so glad he's on. Chief political writer at Spiked Online. I love him. Good morning, Brendan O'Neill. How are you, dear?
I'm good, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm all right. I don't, honestly, mate, I'm sat in that bleeding tent last week, sweating like anything, and all I can do is this Nicola Sturgeon stuff, mate. What's your take on this? I mean, 350 quid on a dice. I mean, he's a shopaholic who's going to jail. But does she seriously think that when with that stupid... Did you see the interview with her in 2021 when she said all the finances are independently audited? What, so nobody knew he was nicking?
Yeah. I mean, talk about a fishy story. I just think she is the least sympathetic politician in Britain at the moment. I don't think anyone is feeling sorry for her. No one is buying her sob stories. No one is listening to this tiny violin that she's playing for herself, saying, oh, I'm a victim of sexism, I'm being blamed for my husband's crimes, etc., etc. I don't think anyone's buying that. She should have noticed that something was going wrong. I think the story about not even seeing the motorhome is laughably ridiculous. And he was buying so much stuff. As you say, he was clearly a shopaholic. He was spending money left, right, and centre. Their house was suddenly full of things it hadn't previously been full of. She should have known that something was up. And most normal people would say, why are you buying all these things? Where are you getting the money from? The fact that she didn't do that is a catastrophic failure.
Absolutely. And also, I think for her, you say there's no sympathy. I think one of the main reasons for that is she was very, very vocal in passing judgment. I remember listening to her saying categorically, Boris Johnson, you're going to say that Downing Street was a big operation. You were the boss. You should have known all about this. Much like Starmer said to Boris Johnson, and he's fallen on his backside. I mean, you know, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to her. Kunzberg asked her about her sexuality in that interview. I don't know if you saw that. I couldn't give a damn what your sexuality is, but this woman, is it a marriage of convenience? Has she turned a blind eye? Apparently they had such a hold on that party, that makes everybody think he was getting away with it and she just turned a blind eye, man. 1,000,000%.
You know, I think you're absolutely right. The reason people don't feel sorry for her is because she micromanaged Scottish people's lives. She brought in all sorts of tyrannical laws, the hate speech law that she tried to bring in, the named person law that she tried to bring in, which would have appointed a state official to every child born in Scotland. Of course, her gender recognition support, which allowed men to go into women's spaces. She brought in all sorts of laws which were precisely about monitoring every normal Scottish person's life, invading on their spaces, invading on their freedom, keeping a check on them to make sure they were doing nothing wrong. And yet there she was herself living with this man who was doing things that were very wrong, and she didn't notice. She was too busy poking her nose into the ordinary Scottish person's business that she didn't want to see what was happening right under her nose. But also, the other thing, when she plays this feminist card, as she did in her BBC interview, that's really sick-making, because this is a woman who allowed rapists to go into women's prisons.
Isla Bryson, I will never forget that story. A man who raped 2 women, right, can put a wig on and a pair of tight leggings and say, I'm transitioning, and gets put in a female jail. Disgusting. Disgusting political decision.
So the idea that she's some kind of great feminist and women should now feel sorry for her, it actually makes you want to puke. But also, she says, women should not be blamed for men's crimes. Under her regime of self-ID, gender self-ID, that's exactly what happened. Men who committed atrocious crimes were recorded as women having committed those crimes because they ID'd as women. So she is a staggering hypocrite when she says, don't blame women for what men do.
Not only do I agree with that, a staggering hypocrite who, to save her own backside, has now hot-footed it to London, a country, by the way, the capital of a country she wants nothing to do with, has moved down here to gain some space. So sod Scottish independence, everything I stood for, I didn't believe in. I wouldn't let her in. Sorry.
Yeah,
I wouldn't let her in.
I mean, everything about her is just ridiculous. And this is the key problem. She had such a soft ride from the mainstream media for so long. They fawned over her. They thought she was some kind of Scottish Obama. They thought she was this great leader. And it turns out that she led a pretty scandalous party. She instituted really shocking illiberal laws. And it seems she was staggeringly incompetent in her everyday business. So this fawning by the media is the thing that actually discourages us from asking the questions we should have been asking. And there are a lot of questions to ask about Nicola Sturgeon.
And they're not going away. The other big story of the day, Brendan, Downing Street expected to publish 1,000+ documents later on this afternoon, including bombshell texts and emails between Mandelson and ministers. The Met Police is interesting. Well, overnight saying, asking the Cabinet Office to not make all documents public, as they could have a detrimental impact on the investigation. We have to keep saying Mandelson denies any wrongdoing, blah, blah, blah. But this isn't going to go away. My question to you is, you know, people are saying, is he quaking in his boots? He's a dead man walking. Does this engulf the rest of the Labour Party? And does Burnham escaped that because he was in Manchester changing people's lives, in bracket, I'm not sure what for, close brackets, just an opinion.
Yeah. Yes, I think this scandal is not going anywhere. And I am really looking forward to what's in these emails. And I want to know what they knew, what they said, why they took this ridiculous decision, because this will be the gravestone of Keir Starmer's government. This will be what they will write on the gravestone, which is that this was an incompetent, scandal-ridden government, all out for their own mates, all out for themselves. And they put this man in Washington, the most important diplomatic job in this country, despite knowing that he had all these iffy background issues. So it deserves to be the thing that brings them down. And I think these emails will be another nail in the coffin of this government.
I think that's right. And I mean, does Burnham escape it, do you think? Because we're not going to get into a debate about the next, about what's happening at that by-election, but Charlie Rowley was really passionate about this. He doesn't think that somebody can come from outside and become Prime Minister. I'm further, and I said it when the Tories were in power. I listen to all the people who tell me, oh, you know, the Tories won a majority or Labour won a majority, but the figurehead is the person that puts that mandate forward and is the reason people do it. I'm not sure, as I've said, when people defect, whether you can then pretend to represent people, and certainly if they're going to lurch to the left, surely they have to call an election. I personally think that if Burnham becomes Prime Minister, the clamour for that will not go anywhere, but will just heat up on a daily basis.
Unquestionable. I think that is one of the most important arguments we should be making in the next few months. I think he will escape most of the Mandelson scandal. I think he will definitely try to. He will be out on the street saying, this government made many failures and I will correct them all. He will be doing that after today's emails, no doubt about it. But you're absolutely right. If he were to become PM, we would need an election within a matter of months because we didn't vote for him to be Prime Minister. And lots of people in Manchester, despite all the fawning of the SW1 media who call him the King of the North and, you know, the King of Manchester, there are a lot of people up in the Northwest who don't like him and who think he failed on the grooming gangs issue and who thought that his policy of charging people for driving so-called dirty cars was incredibly unpopular.
Oh, is that the same theory as Khan in London? I'm going to do this because it does my head in. We don't want your diesel cars and all that disgusting stuff in our city, but if you give me £12.50, I'll turn a blind eye. What a load of old rubbish that is, isn't it? It's a money-making machine, mate.
Oh, exactly. And it was so unpopular in Manchester that he had to backtrack on it to a certain extent. So he's not uniformly popular, even in Manchester, never mind the rest of the country. If he's Prime Minister, he will, and if he sits on that throne for too long, he will be an illegitimate Prime Minister. We will need an election very quickly.
Just very quickly to finish, cerebrally, what do you make of him? Do you think he's Prime Ministerial material?
Who, sorry?
Do you think he's Prime Ministerial material, Andy Burnham?
No. My personal view is that he has been way over-egged. I think people are getting too excited about him. I think he's not a particularly good orator. He doesn't have very clear beliefs. He changes with the wind. One minute he's a Blairite, the next minute he's a socialist. You can't really tell what he is. So I don't think he would be a good Prime Minister. And the problem is, Jeremy, we've talked about this before, Labour doesn't have a Keir Starmer problem. Labour has a Labour problem. This is a party that betrayed the people it was founded to represent, and that's why they're turning against it.
It's always an absolute pleasure, mate. We love having you on. Thank you, Brendan O'Neill. Check out his writing at Spiked Online. Now, we mentioned the Makerfield by-election. Here is a list of the candidates. Jake Austin stands for the Liberal Democrats, Count Binface for his own party, Count Binface Party, Andy Burnham, of course, the Labour Party, Dan Clark, the Libertarian Party, John Dyer for the Independents, Ed Gemmell, the Climate Party, Paul Gould, the Independent, Alan Howling, Lord Hope, the official monster raving loony party, Robert Kenyon, Reform UK, Robert Pownall, Protect the Wild, Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain, Sarah Wakefield, the Green Party, Peter Ward, Rejoin the EU, and Michael Stanley, the Conservative Party. That's your list of candidates. 22 minutes to 8 o'clock if you want to be on. 0344 499 1000. Morning, Michael.
Hi, Jeremy. Michael here. Why on earth would he buy a motorhome? The motorhome's for him and his wife to go away for wee jaunts, isn't it? To the Isle of Skye or Loch Lomond. Why on earth would he buy a motorhome if she wasn't going to go in it? It's just totally implausible that she hasn't been in it, never mind seen it. Why on earth would he buy a beautiful motorhome and disappear? Is he disappearing on his own?
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 20 to 8. We're live across the UK. Welcome to breakfast. Talk is, of course, the home of common sense, and your views on the day's news always welcome. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. You waking up to the news that the Mandelson files are going to be released, more of them this afternoon. We'll follow that closely. I'm sure that'll be interesting to see who's implicated, which ministers are trying to push themselves away from Mandelson, and whether, in fact, it engulfs the whole country. That'll be really interesting, the whole party. And Nicola Sturgeon, I didn't know about the motorhome. I didn't know about the grinders. £400,000, honestly. Sean, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby here. You know what, mate? Whether it's expenses scandal or motorhomes or salt and pepper grinders or free suits or glasses or football tickets or free £5 million, these politicians, mate, how dare they stand up and lecture the great public on morality and decency, right? These people make me want to gag, mate, every single one of them, and they're all rotten to the core, mate. Great show, mate.
Here's a question that Christian just threw. So he bought a motorhome for 125 grand and he parked it at his in-laws' house. What was it for? If he wasn't going to take her away, was it for them to have somewhere to live when the police came and took their house away? Did he meet other people in the motorhome? Did she meet other people in the motorhome? What's inside the motorhome? Where did... Seriously, it's driving me nuts, this story. Let's say a very good morning to a man who first appeared on this show just as a lowly sort of police commentator and now is international stage star of screen and television and barely takes my calls. Peter Blexley, good morning.
Good morning, but I still don't own a motorhome.
No, I don't see you as a motorhome man. I see you more as a sort of B&B man with the wife.
Exactly, yeah. And Mrs. Blexley is quite partial to the occasional travel lodge when circumstances dictate.
Are you saying that because they're sponsoring you on your tour or something? Was that to get the name of Travel Lodge in?
No, not the slightest, no. No, a budget holiday inn will do. We're fine. We just... don't waste money on expensive hotels.
Since I last spoke to you, we've got a date, haven't we, next season? We're in the Championship now, West Ham.
12 noon on the 25th of June. The fixtures are published. I shall be watching with great interest.
I'm going to come and stand next to you and Dino and watch us get thrashed by you. My friend, of all the stories when I was away, we can talk about Sturgeon and all that, I cannot get my head round, and I know it's 2 days old, but I cannot get my head round this appalling Manchester Airport justice farce, right? So these two human beings, Mohammed Fair Amaz and Mohammed Ahmad, attacked Zachary Marsden, the cop. It was the 23rd of July, 2024, and I had Richard Tice on this morning because it happened, and it was on the Drive Time show in those days, and Richard Tice stuck his head above the parapet early on and said, there's no way that a taser would be used unless something else had happened. And he was literally vilified. And then 3 days later, other footage came out of them viciously attacking and breaking the nose of that female constable. Can you explain to me, right, from a police perspective, how the hell that makes your comrades feel that you can be attacked and the justice system can defend these two criminals who walked out of court the other day with a spring in his step and a smile on his face?
I was involved in cases, albeit many years ago, when verdicts would be returned that we thought were simply perverse. They were sometimes absolutely baffling in the wake of a huge body of evidence, which we thought was overwhelming, conclusive, beyond debate. Sometimes perverse verdicts were returned. It's very difficult as a police officer, and for you and for your team, but you know what? You're a public servant. You have to pick yourself up again, dust yourself down, get that uniform on, get out onto the streets, protect and serve the people. Move on, go and find some more wrong uns.
I accept that, but there's a bigger issue here. Does this not set a precedent, Pete?
No, it doesn't. There will always be perverse verdicts as long as you have a jury system, although we need to remind ourselves that this appalling government is seeking to abolish jury trials. for so many people. I would still rather, should I be accused by the state of a serious crime, be tried by 12 of my peers than an executive judge sitting on his own or a panel of judges.
OK, well, talking to being as careful as I can be, what happens if members of the jury, wherever... I mean, listen, strangely enough, I've been called up for jury service later in the year. What if a member of the jury has a view which goes against facts? Does that not rather negate the justice? And by the way, I'm not a fan of Lammies at all and any left-wing judges, but as Richard Ty said earlier, it's there for all to see. The bloke right now is smashing PC Marsden in the face 6 times. There is no way on God's earth that's a miscarriage of justice, Pete.
I came out of the Inner London Crown Court one day with not guilty verdicts having been returned against 3 defendants. I'd spent weeks and weeks working undercover, built up a huge body of incontrovertible evidence as I saw it. And as we came out of the court, shaking our heads, a member of the jury rushed up to my colleague, grabbed hold of him. She was in floods of tears. My colleague took this woman into a side room and she turned round and said, our jury was nobbled. There was people on that jury who had been intimidated and forced into returning not guilty verdicts. This was a case some years ago, but things like that, and I'm not suggesting it happened here, but things like that, unfortunately, do happen. It's appalling that this government wants to do away with jury service, but I'm afraid with that system, from time to time, utterly baffling verdict.
Is there a way that this government, and probably not this government because they probably wouldn't know, but is there an argument that says, if you look at what happened in Manchester, that no, we shouldn't end jury trials, but we should toughen up or tighten up the selection procedures and the selection processes when we're looking at certain cases?
There might be a very solid argument for that, but you've got to be very careful about cherry-picking juries, as it might be perceived, because then, of course, you would give the defence barristers an open goal to appeal. But there is some merit in that. The jury system is actually a treasure of our criminal justice system, and it is utterly appalling that Lammy wants to abolish it.
Yeah. I'm not sticking up for him. I'm just wondering whether we're going to have a precedent where juries can be nobbled, or there's certain voting in terms of where you come from or what your view of it is. I mean, I've never done jury service. I just said to you, I've been summoned for it sometime later in the year, and the whole thing fills me with complete. I don't even know what I would be letting myself in for. In that situation, are you allowed to say I think that? Because I can't understand. This is me being honest. How 12 people with 12 brain cells between them can't watch that and think the bloke's a thug.
Yeah, but you might not have needed 12. You might only have needed 3 or 4 that were dissenting voices. I would urge you to do your public service and do that jury service. It is absolutely an incredible experience.
Is it?
I did it 7 years ago. It was the most life-affirming thing I've done in a long, long time. It reinforced my belief in the brilliance of the great British public. They were absolutely wonderful. And so I do please urge you to do it. You might sit on a similar case. What you have to say, what you see, your view may be really important and may just prevent another situation like this reoccurring in the future.
Interesting. I just want to paint a scenario with you because we're going to play each other at football, so we can do a bit of role-playing here. You are the chief... I mean, let me just say, she denies any wrongdoing. Peter Morella's been charged and is in jail. This story of Sturgeon, mate, yesterday's at the BBC interview said, I'm not going to apologise. 400 grand. I mean... If you were the copper on this, your mouth would just fall to the floor. A motorhome she says she didn't see. 2 cars, apparently he changes and buys 80 grand cars. Coffee machines, salt and pepper grinders, luxury watches. A custom-made library ladder. Have you seen the house? Has he got a library? I don't know where that's from. And 350 quid. It's like you buying a hairdryer. There'd be no bleeding point, man, would there?
Absolutely. It would be a complete and utter waste of money. I saw her interview on the BBC yesterday, because I felt I might be talking about this case. Yes, it's astonishing, but you do need proof. It's one thing knowing something, or one thing suspecting something, but proving something is, of course, a completely different matter. She put forward her defence to these matters, which is clearly why she has not been charged. I must confess, though, that I once spent £2,500 on Grindr. It had nothing to do with salt and pepper, and my wife knew nothing about it.
Somebody rang up earlier, and you'd know this, and said, so the stuff that she received that she doesn't know that he bought with dodgy money, right? Let's not forget the poor people who were spending their money on donating because they believed in something. She yesterday refused to return the gifts that turned out to be... It seems to me that she thinks she can walk away from this, Pete, but somebody just said, why don't the police check the motorhome for DNA to see if she's ever been in it? Apparently she didn't even see it parked down the side of her in-laws. Bloody great motorhome. I mean, do you buy her? Do you buy any of this rubbish?
I think it's very unusual when apparently you could go on Google Earth and see this motorhome from space, but she claims not to have seen it from walking on the driveway. Very mystifying. But once again, you need sufficient evidence for proof. Now, in Scotland, we have handling stolen goods down here, which would probably be what would have been investigated. It has a different title and a slightly different meaning north of the border. But clearly the police investigated this, looking for sufficient evidence. They couldn't find it. Henceforth, she's not been charged. Yes, a remarkable story. What I am very pleased about, though, is that Murrell, the embezzler, the thief, has been held to account, and I hope that he is suitably, sternly punished.
The only thing about her that winds me up, though, and you know, she maintains her innocence and I can't go against that, is for a bloody woman, right, who has spent all of her life arguing for independence from this country, she's hot-footed it to London in a flat trying to launch a media career and doesn't seem to give a toss about the people that she's left behind after all those years in power. Unbelievable, mate. Hypocrisy.
The longer I work in the media, the more I get to meet politicians or former politicians. And without fail, the more I meet, the more disappointed I am in them.
I couldn't agree more. Listen, lovely to... We'll look forward to QPR West Ham. And how's the tour going, kidder?
Very well, thank you. Halfway through, Eastleigh on Thursday, Walsall on Friday. And in a couple of weeks' time, I've got 5 shows in Scotland.
Have you? Are you going to stay in a motorhome? Because I know one that's free. It'd save you a few quid.
I'll be in inexpensive hotels as usual. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Travelodge or anybody else that's putting up the Blexes for free. Thanks, Pete. Good man. Almost 7 o'clock or even 8 o'clock. 0344 499 Morning, Tony.
Morning, Jez. Tony from Worcester. Nicola Sturgeon, this camper van. She doesn't say in that clip that she hadn't seen the camper van. She keeps saying that she's got no conscious memory, or she said no conscious recollection of seeing the camper van. I also understand that the police were a bit intimidated by having the First Minister in for questioning. I wonder if they dusted the inside of the van for fingerprints, they would have easily been able to establish if she'd ever been inside it. Anyway, have a good day, mate. Good to hear you back.
He sounds like an 80s pop star. Fantastic. So he did. It's a bit like Martin Kim. So, by the way, can I just tell you how depressed I was this morning when I came in? The brilliant Chris Evans on Virgin Breakfast. If you fancy music, is the only person. He was an absolute radio hero of mine. Lucky enough to know him. I came in this morning and it said, Chris Evans welcomes Kiefer Sutherland. Jeremy Carr's got Charlie Rowley. Something's gone wrong with my bleeding career. Mandy, oh Mandy, well you came and you gave without taking. Good morning, Mand.
Good morning, how are you, Jeremy?
Not bad for an old has-been. How are you, my darling?
Good, thank you. I'll need to be quick, I'm just heading into work. The question needs to be asked about Nicola Sturgeon, why all of the finance chief executives resigned, why the audit company also resigned. She couldn't find an auditor for the books because they were saying that there was documents missing, and then she had to end up getting an English company to put in the audit with a caveat saying documents were missing. Also, when she said she fully cooperated with the police, she just no commented the whole way through, so I don't know how that is cooperating.
What's the feeling about Sturgeon in Scotland in your mind, darling?
Well, pretty much the same as we said this morning. You know, we all feel a bit conned. We all feel a bit, you know, that she's not telling the truth or she's hiding something. Honestly, don't understand how she couldn't have seen all of these items or not even. I mean, the motorhome. I can't be bothered.
And what about her deputy, who's now the First Minister, Swinney? That's interesting as well. Listen.
Yeah, absolutely. They've all got questions to answer. They all have. And for him not to have an inquiry into it is shocking, absolutely shocking. I mean, it's funded by members, it's funded by normal, everyday people who are all struggling at the minute. Everybody's got their bills to pay, and to just have this all swept under the carpet in Nicola's instance is ridiculous.
And just finally, we've only got a minute. What do you feel about her moving to bloody England, the place she wants nothing to do with?
Don't start me on that. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. She's obviously trying to distance herself from her husband. They're still married. And I would say he's the fall guy. He's taken the heat off of her, but that's not really worked, has it?
Listen, great to have you on. Thank you, Mandy from Ayrshire, talking there about how frustrated, angry and bitter and twisted many Scots are about Nicola Sturgeon. Almost 8 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. Ex-Labour MP Carl Turner on the show in the next hour. What does he make of everything that's happening in the Labour Party today? 1,000 more texts and emails. Ree Mandelson will be released. What will happen to Starmer? 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. The news at 8 is next.
They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
You know, you've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the streets.
This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
you know, you have to remember that Peter Murrell has been the chief executive of the SNP for nigh on a quarter of a century. He's been with Nicola Sturgeon since 2003. She said that she didn't have access to his personal records. They had separate bank accounts. So we can take, well, what you want from all of that. The list that you gave is unbelievable. 124,000 in a camper van, Fortnum and Mason's picnic hampers, a couple of lawnmowers, one for 3,000 quid, three Davic Savile umbrellas, £970. The list goes. A wine coaster. I needed to look up what a wine coaster was. 3,500 quid. So the list goes on.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, serial murder, really depraved crimes, it's quite clear to me that the usual considerations around whether you should be lenient because of this context, whether or not there should be more room for rehabilitation in that context, just don't apply. From the simple commonsensical basis that if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
But this is the thing,
I don't want to take that risk.
If these kids genuinely, you know, and they are kids, everyone involved is a kid. I mean, this is absolute travesty. If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the street.
Yeah. So there's now a label for children who skip school. You know, parents can't sort it out. In the old days, I used to think that skipping school was against the law. You know, and parents used to be taken to court. Well, no longer anymore. They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home. Again, I keep saying, on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
Universities. Let's get everyone going to university. Well, I think a fundamental job of education is to prepare children for the society they're going to live in a positive way, i.e. prepare them for a job. You've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
Henry Novak's last words were, "I can't breathe," as he was handcuffed, having been stabbed not only in the front but in the back as well, you know. Okay, he stabbed him in the chest twice, stabbed him in the face once, stabbed him in the back of the leg twice. I mean, what an attack. Let's wait and see what sentence this vile piece of garbage gets. Of course, none of it of which will bring back dear Henry. May his soul rest in peace.
It's just so shocking, Pete, you know. I mean, we're so used to criticising the police for mistakes. This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back and welcome along. Just gone 8 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Jeremy Kyle on Talk Breakfast. It's the home of common sense and where your views on the news of the day are more than welcome. Tommy taking your calls. You can ring us. You can leave a voice note. Christian's only got a week to go before he goes off on holiday to a monastery. Another subject we'll talk about later. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. What news are you waking up to? Well, Downing Street is bracing itself, or rather Starmer is. Later on, 1,000 new publicated documents will come out. Bombshell texts and emails about Mandelson and about his relationship with all the ministers and all that stuff. That's just going to be utterly fantastic. We have to say that Mandelson still denies any wrongdoing, but the question now is how many in the government do these messages, these files engulf? Does it cover Streeting, Mahmood? I mean, Burnham obviously is completely clear of that and is running around the place. I love the front of the Mail this morning. Obviously that by-election up north is taking place. Andy said, the Mail says, "You've won nothing yet, Andy." Echoes of Neil Kinnock as cocky Burnham accused of taking voters for granted. Love to know what you think about that. 0344 499 1000. But the story that's got you going is wee Jimmy Cranky. Aye, Nicola Sturgeon. Nicola Sturgeon, who was the leader of the SNP and the First Minister of Scotland for years, married to Peter Murrell, a bald man, OK, a bald man who was the chief executive of the SNP. He was, of course, arrested about a year and a half ago and has been charged with embezzling 400 grand's worth of money from SNP coffers. This is the money, right? The money that people have sort of said, I'll pay my £10, I want to be free of England. Bear that in mind. He's been found guilty. No charges on Sturgeon. Yesterday she did an interview with Laura Kunsberg because it's come out that this man bought a motorhome and parked it at the in-laws, and she never saw it, despite going there quite a lot. He bought 2 cars, including an 80 grand Jaguar, but really weird stuff, like a £3,000 coffee machine, a 2 grand set of salt and pepper grinders, luxury watches. How about this? A custom-made library ladder. Their house didn't look like it had a library to me. A grand theft auto video, several onesies and a Dyson airdryer costing 350 quid for a man who's bald. And to me, I mean, Christian's right. We're expected to believe that Peter Murrell sat there in his onesie with a PlayStation having come down the ladder from his library. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, he's off to prison. He's awaiting sentence. I'm not going to apologise. I had absolutely no idea that any of... I've never done... What are you saying? This is her about the onesie and the watches. Come on, Nick.
Some of them were very basic. He even spent a few pounds on new toilet seats or a onesie. But he spent thousands of pounds on watches, thousands of pounds on pens, some of which you were pictured using, expensive handbags as gifts for you, thousands of pounds on several coffee machines. These were a whole series of items that were far out of reach of the normal family.
We weren't a normal family. I was the first minister of the country. Expensive watches. I never saw those watches. Until they were asked about in the context of a criminal investigation, I didn't know they existed. You mention a onesie. Never ever saw it. A coffee machine. We had a nice coffee machine in our house. We were on salaries that would not have made me question how we could have afforded a decent coffee machine.
I'm not being disrespectful, but this is the woman who ran the SNP with a rod of iron, who was the First Minister of Scotland for ages, didn't see a bloody thing, kept walking into the walls in her house because she didn't see anything. Morning, Neil.
Morning, Jazz. Neil from Basingstoke here. I mean, here's the thing, right? She says she doesn't know anything about this, that stuff was just appearing in the house, cars, motorhomes, God knows what. They are public servants being paid by the taxpayer, both of them. And she thinks that's okay, that she can have all that stuff, even if he was buying it, that was coming out of the salary of people paid for by the taxpayer. Absolutely disgusting, these politicians. They really are. They have no clue.
Sharon from Staffordshire backing that up. She says, Jez, I am sick and tired of politicians abusing our money. Is this why so many of them go into politics now? Here's a man who was brave enough to stand up to the Labour government and got the whip taken away and is now an independent. A man who's been vilified for standing up, who's been tweeting about Sturgeon over the weekend. You're not going to tell me you support her. Carl Turner, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy.
Lovely to see you, old boy. Nicola Sturgeon, talk to me. It's a joke, man.
Well, look, it's not just Sturgeon, is it, Jeremy? It's politicians across the board. We've got Starmer nothing passes his desk. He don't know this is happening or that's happening. He had no idea whatsoever about Mandelson and all the rest of the stuff. It was Boris Johnson in Downing Street where we couldn't see our grannies. And now Sturgeon, who doesn't know that there's a 24-foot motorhome parked on the mother-in-law's drive. It's the establishment, politicians, taking the mickey out of the country. That's where we are with this. And I'm afraid to tell you, it isn't confined to the SNP. It's across the board. And that's what people get cheesed off about, Jeremy. They think they can get away with it. That's the truth. I would never have dreamed it would happen in a Starmer-led Labour Party in government. But unfortunately for us, unfortunately for me, unfortunately for the electorate, nothing passes his desk.
Well, listen, there's so much I want to talk to you about, but I think you might like John in Lincolnshire's text message. He said, Jeremy, what do you think was in the motorhome? Apparently 108 bog rolls that he bought just before the COVID broke. And he said, you know why? Because the SNP are full of... But, look, the point is this. The point is this. You're right. Confidence. I mean, I remember the expenses scandal and people going, politicians, it'll never be the same again. This is an absolute outrage. And then it sort of turned and COVID. The thing about this woman that really sticks in the craw of many people who have been on this show already today, Carl, she pontificated, she passed judgment, and I'm not sticking up for Boris Johnson. She was first in the queue to slag anybody off about not doing it correctly, and I should be central to all these decisions, and what I find so hypocritical, apparently she can't see a thing, so she's obviously got an issue because she no idea, and I've heard all the rumours about her and her ex-husband or whatever. But here's the thing. A, a judgment, and B, well, 3 actually. She sat in the police meeting interview and said no comment for 7 hours. No shock, just no comment. I think the worst thing I've heard so far is that a woman who spent her entire career arguing for Scottish independence has hot-footed it to London, where she's rented a flat to escape some of the heat that she's getting up north. I wouldn't allow her in London. I think it's an absolute disgrace. Sod Scottish independence. It's all about Nicola, isn't it?
Well, I say this, Jeremy, as a former criminal lawyer with some expertise and some knowledge of advice in police stations, people are advised by lawyers to go no comment for lots of reasons. But I'll tell you my experience, and I had plenty of it. The main reason is if you say something, there's a chance that you're going to cause yourself a problem. So you're advising your client to say absolutely nothing, not even to confirm when asked what the name is. You know, no comment across the board, so you can't be tricked into answering questions which might potentially cause you a problem in criminal proceedings. And that's what the advice would have been.
But can I add to that, if you're telling the truth, you shouldn't have any fear to say what you're thinking. How can that be a problem if you're telling the truth?
Well, exactly. If your instructions in that scenario are, this is what happened, I've got no problem whatsoever in telling my version of events, most criminal solicitors would advise the client to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Because it matters, Jeremy, in criminal proceedings, because when it comes to a potential criminal trial, the jury can be invited by the judge to hold an adverse inference from the silence in the police station. So criminal solicitors want clients to say what they need to say unless there's something to hide. Now, I'm not casting aspersions on Sturgeon. I think she's right when she says, why should I be blamed for the criminality of my former husband?
Well, you're telling me you think she didn't know it was going on? You buy her BS, do you? Because I think it's BS,
No,
that's my opinion.
I absolutely don't, to be honest.
No.
But what I say is, she's right when she says, why should I be blamed for his criminality? However, I think there's something to be said for the fact that she was in a relationship with a geezer who was buying 400 quid air dryers when he's got a bald sweep. That's the reality. What on earth is he doing with an air dryer?
Well, can you imagine this bald-headed gay? He wants us to believe he's washed his non-existent hair and blow-dried it with a £350 Dyson. Then he's put on his onesie. Look at him there. He's put on his onesie. He's played Grand Theft Auto. Then he's climbed up his library ladder, got an Enid Blyton book, has cooked himself a pizza and used his £2,000 grinder. Yeah, don't say anything. And he's, honestly, what a load. But for me about her, there's no empathy. There's no no mention of what it must feel like to have been those people that gave their money thinking it was to help an independence move, and it's just feathered there. I think it's disgusting, and I think, and I'm not, listen, we've all had bad press at times in our life, you as well, but I think that people like her, when you pontificate and you pass judgment, when it comes back, you have to take what's coming your way. And all this haunted, it's not me, don't buy it. Let's talk about the other favourite subject of yours, because today's going to be fun in Downing Street, isn't it? Downing Street expected to publish more than 1,000 documents later, which include bombshell texts and emails between Mandelson and ministers. Last night, Carl, the Met Police asked the Cabinet Office to not make some documents public as they would have a detrimental impact on the investigation. Now, as I understand it, Parliament demanded those documents after the Humble process. Is this part of more of a cover-up, or do you think this really... Because Starmer's a dead man walking. Is this going to engulf more of your ex-colleagues, pal?
Well, look, I'll tell you what used to irritate me about them, right? They used to pretend, when all this came out about Mandelson, they could hardly contain the excitement of getting out there and pretending they didn't know him from Adam. So I can hardly contain the excitement, Jeremy, of them being found out for multiple messaging Mandelson, trying to win favour with him, knowing full well that he had the influence over Keir Starmer through Max Sweeney. So they'll have been there, kissing his backside, saying, Mandy, what do you think job I can get? Do you think I need to do this or that to get a better job? And Mandelson will have been replying, saying, right, do this, do that, do the other, and let me put a good word in for you. But yet when it comes out that he was pals with a paedophile, which we all knew about, and Mandelson didn't lie, he'd had it, to be honest. It was out there in the press. They all pretended they didn't know him from Adam. That is the problem with this, and I can't wait for them to be discovered. I'm going to be tweeting about it at every opportunity. I'm going to be mentioning him in Parliament. But you know what I'm going to be doing most and enjoying most, Jeremy?
No.
I'm going to be looking them in the face, and I'm going to be saying, yes, that's what you were up to, but you tried to pretend you didn't know him. What a disgrace you are. Because they are.
Good for you, mate. And one of the few that and I've said it before, that had the courage to stand up to what he believed. Can I ask you this important question about it? We have to be careful because there's a by-election taking place. Does this and those messages and texts that will be released today of course, you've just said it doesn't just engulf Starmer. It engulfs so many, we believe, ministerials as well. Does this play, if Burnham ended up in Parliament, does this play in his favour because he's away from all of this? Because this guy, if you watch listen to the Mail, I mean, he's running around wherever, cocksure he's about to be our next Prime Minister. The Mail says this morning, you've not won anything yet, Andy. What do you make of that?
Well, it's true. What we ought not to do is take the electorate for granted, right? And I've been really cautious about it because I'm not convinced that Andy will be elected in Makerfield. He's got a massive mountain to climb. I hope he is, Jeremy. And I'll tell you why I hope he is. Because if we don't get Andy Burnham in Parliament, we are seriously in trouble as a political party.
Does he save your party? Is Andy Burnham the man to save Labour?
I think so. I think so, and I'll tell you why. Because he's not been associated with the last 2 years of what has been, let's be honest about it, a government which has been unimpressive in the extreme.
I know that, but 2 weeks ago you told me the answer was Angela Rayner, and I put this to you as a mate, and I want to put this to you. Hear me out a second. This isn't about my political persuasion. I look at Burnham and I think he's sort of risen from nowhere and they're blowing smoke up his backside and everybody says he's the great Northern Hope and he's changed Manchester. I speak to people in Manchester who say they're about as impressed with him as most Londoners are with Sadiq Khan. So what I'm saying is, because you're now an independent and you've always been honest, is he cerebrally? Is he convicted? Is there enough of, and not, I know we've had some bad prime ministers, is he really good enough to be the Prime Minister of this country?
Yeah, just on the Rayner point, Rayner's my pal, and I'm impressed by Rayner, and she'd still be my first choice.
Right.
That's the truth. But I don't think the Parliamentary Labour Party are as convinced about Andy Rayner as I am. In terms of Andy Burnham, Andy is popular in the country. That's what the polling suggests. I've seen him in action in Manchester, and he does appear to me as somebody who's well-liked. Whether they think he's going to be the answer to our prayers as Prime Minister, I'm not sure about that, but I think he gets a chance to have a go at it. Now, the reason he's popular, I think, Jeremy, is because he's not been in Cabinet for 2 years.
Yeah.
If he had been in the Cabinet, when we were messing around with winter fuel and we were taxing farmers without any need for it, and we were putting VAT on private schools which don't bring any money in, and actually private schools are closed as a result of it, and that gives a problem to the state education system and the rest of the stupid policies that we introduce, and people like me in the PLP were saying what we're doing is pointless, and in fact it won't do what we're saying it's going to do. That's the stuff that Andy is not associated with, right? Everybody else in that cabinet, and I'm sorry about it because some impressed me. West Streeting, I think, is impressive. I do genuinely think he's impressive, but he's associated with the 2 years. He can't come out now convincingly and say that farmer's tax was a bad idea.
Neither can Angela Rayner, who only left the cabinet because she'd been fired, to be honest. But I'm with you.
I agree.
And then the next big debate, though, and we have to move on, mate, and we love having you on, is can he then waltz into number 10 Downing Street, right? change your policies and expect to govern for 3 years when that wasn't the mandate the British people voted for. Then we're talking election. Carl, we love having you on. Thank you, because we keep mentioning Makerfield. We know there's a by-election on there. Here's a list of the candidates, peeps. Jake Austin stands for the Liberal Democrats. Count Binface for his own party, Count Binface Party. Andy Burnham, of course, the Labour Party. Dan Clark, the Libertarian Party. John Dyer for the Independents. Ed Gemmell, the Climate Party. Paul Gould, the Independent. Alan Howling, Lord Hope, the official monster raving loony party. Robert Kenyon, Reform UK. Robert Pownall, Protect the Wild. Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain. Sarah Wakefield, the Green Party. Peter Ward, Rejoin the EU. And Michael Stanley, the Conservative Party. That's your list of candidates. 8:20 before we go to Kevin Hollinwright, the chairman of the Tory Party. Hold fire, because it's that moment of the morning. Oliver, William, Robin, Carl is sat in the car and will not go to school. Let me tell you about my son. When we were glamping, he's got a skill and he's rushing around. I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm a blogger. So now he takes videos of everything. He wants to, he's going to be, I think he's going to be fat. I think we better get him in here. He can have a go with the cameras. Rissy, good morning, and Victoria, 8:20. Let's go to him live. Is he outside? He is outside because it's a nice, balmy, sunny morning. Good morning to Kevin Hollinwright, chairman of the Tory Party. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thanks, Jeremy. Good to be on.
I didn't know you were Thirsk and Malton. Lovely part of the country. Kevin, today, Downing Street. More Mandelson trauma, texts, emails. How much did other government ministers know? It would be fair to say that this scandal has already paid for Keir Starmer's future. He's done whenever. Do you believe that it will encapsulate other members of this government in a detrimental way as well?
Yes, I do. And the people who want to see Keir Starmer out of number 10 Downing Street should thank Kemi Badenoch and her team for that, because it was her bringing all this to light back in September of last year that has led to the revelations around this scandal. What I'm not confident about is we'll get the full information today. There will be a huge release of documents, but it's quite clear that the Labour Party, the Labour government, has sought to conceal some documents in complete contradiction to the requirements of Parliament. That is totally wrong. So we'll see what comes today. But
so can I help people out who... Yeah, but let me help people out who are just tuning in, Kevin. You're saying that there is a chance not everything will be released. Overnight, this is what we heard from the Cabinet Office. The Met Police asked the Cabinet Office last night, allegedly, not to make some documents public as they would have a detrimental impact on his investigation. You're saying that the humble address and what Parliament demanded was all of that. Are we saying that there is evidence or proof or a belief that people are putting pressure on the police or vice versa on people? This is a cover-up? What are you saying to me?
No, we respect the independence of the police. They've got to carry on in terms of their prosecution, together with the CPS, of course. But that's not what I was referring to. So the requirements of the humble address, the mechanism by which these documents will be released, were quite clear that the documents, other than those that were vital for law enforcement processes, should go to the Joint Intelligence and Security Committee, and they would determine what documents should not be released or what should be redacted. We know from Jeremy Wright, who's one of my Conservative colleagues who sits on that committee, he tabled a urgent question in Parliament, which was granted, where he said that wasn't being respected by the government, and there were documents being redacted, being withheld, that were outside that process. That is totally wrong. So we're not confident that the government's going to make a clean breast of the information they've got, and we see this as potentially a cover-up continuing. We'll continue to put pressure on the government to release all the relevant information.
It's quite interesting. Carl Turner was just saying he can't wait for it later. All those people who said we knew nothing about it could be implicated massively. Can I ask you again? We've listed the candidates in the by-election. We're doing the broadcast as we should do the broadcast. But the front page of the Mail, I think, is very interesting when it says today, Andy, you haven't won anything yet. The Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, who is seeking election to Parliament so he can challenge Starmer, move the Labour Party to the left. Apparently, certain parts of the left-wing media think he's, coming to save this country on a white horse. Where do you and the Tory party stand? I mean, you changed leaders and prime ministers on several occasions. You might have a different view to me. I don't believe if he gets into Parliament and becomes the leader, he has any right to be prime minister unless he holds a general election, because I just don't believe that that's the right thing to do. But your party did it with Sunak and Truss.
Well, listen, it's an understandable view, but the process is not that you've changed your leader, you have to have a new election. That'll be a decision for the Labour Party. I personally don't see Turkeys voting for Christmas in terms of the MPs voting for an election, which they would need to do. But the reality is this is not about the personalities involved who leads the Labour Party, it's their values, it's their principles. And we've seen the choices they've made, the increase in taxes, the jobs tax, or it be the family, business and farm tax, or it be the red tape in the Employment Rights Bill, are damaging job prospects for our young people, young and old, actually, people of all ages. We're seeing hundreds of thousands of people being added to the ranks of the unemployed because of those choices. And I haven't heard anything different from Andy Burnham. In fact, the things I've heard him say would likely to be even worse than Keir Starmer. He's talking about unbridled spending, he's talking about welfare, a relax on welfare in terms of more welfare for people who have come to this country and currently have no right to welfare, all these kind of things. Now he keeps backtracking all those things, Andy Burnham, backtracking Burnham, but the reality is he seems to be all over the place, but his natural instincts are to make things worse, not better, and that cannot be a good thing for this country.
I mean, I think we have to understand that you know, again, from my point of view, we're talking about a man who people will tell you has changed Manchester. The people I speak to say not as good as people would believe, but seems to be popular. There was a poll over the weekend that say he would be the most popular person to be Prime Minister. Untested, yes. Untouched by what's happened, yes. But let's look at when he was a Cabinet Minister. Let's look at some of the things that he's done in Manchester. But I just think that the British people, and I mean this, Kevin, have woken up. The silent majority, alarm clock Brits, have said it for ages, and are going, do you know what? Too many of you got your fingers in pies. We've not got respect. You can't just do this. And I think if he does win the leadership of the Labour Party and think he can walk into 10 Downing Street, I think there will be a lot of opposition to him being able to govern. You talked about values and principles just now. I can't wait for your response to this. I won't apologise for my husband's crime, says Nicola Sturgeon, as she exits Scotland, a country that she fought for to be independent, and comes to London and does a tearful interview saying, I didn't notice a 25-foot-long motorhome. What do you make of her on the Tory benches? I mean, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
I think it's extraordinary and not believable, to be honest. And so I saw those interviews as well, and it's not credible. But can I just go back to the point you made about Andy Burnham? He's a good communicator, there's no doubt about it. So is Nigel Farage, so is Zach Polanski, but that's not the point. You need a team and a plan. It needs to be a plan that will stand scrutiny, and I don't see that from any of the other leaders other than Kemi Badenoch, clearly. I'm a little bit biased, clearly, but I really think she has got a good plan and the team to deliver upon it. That is the most important thing, things people should vote for. Look at the detail behind the surface rather than just the rhetoric and, you know, somebody who can communicate well with the public. It's not just about it's about substance, not just about the style.
I completely agree. Just one final question, my friend. I know you've got a sense of humour. We love you coming on the show. You haven't got much hair, that's a fact. It's not me being disrespectful. Would you ever spend 350 quid on a Dyson hairdryer?
Like you say, I don't have much need of one, to be honest. But
what, and Peter Morrell did he?
But interesting, actually, when Kemi Badenoch made that joke about all the Labour front bench having the same hairstyle, there was a number of us on our front bench looked at each other, people like Andrew Snowden and Richard Holden, thought, we've kind of got the same hairstyle as well. So it's not unique to me on the Conservative shadow bench. Good man. Thank you. Kevin Holleray, Conservative Party Chairman and Conservative MP for Thirsk and Moulton, joining us live this morning from Westminster, 8:28. 0344 419 1000. Sturgeon. No, I didn't say anything. Mandelson absolutely didn't do anything wrong. What a day it's going to be. Morning, Wayne.
Morning, Jezza. Welcome back, bye-bye. It's Wayne from Erdington in Birmingham. Nicola Sturgeon, let's kick her out of England. I mean, she was gobbing off about bodies. Same as Starmer, all giving him a big kick in the stones. Let's get her out of England, mate. Keep up the good work, Jezza, bye-bye. Welcome home.
crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to The Royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just gone 8:30. Let's head to the Deputy Political Editor of The Sun. Always great to have him on. Ryan Saby, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy.
Who bought those books? Did your wife buy them without telling them and put them on expenses? Did you know those books existed? Who bought that shirt? Did you know that shirt was bought by your wife? No. What an absolutely... Have you ever seen a story like this Sturgeon one in all your time? Seriously.
I think that it's incredible, really. I think when you boil it down and you look at the everything from the motorhome to the salt and pepper crushers, the story has absolutely everything. And the way that we saw her yesterday and the tears, how did she, not raise any concerns? And I think, okay, fair enough. If you take it at face value that she didn't know about the motorhome on the in-laws drive and all the rest of it, there were concerns raised with this SNP finances by several people who then left the organisation. At that point, she should have asked more questions and wondered what was going on. She led that party, and her husband was running the ship, basically.
I know you haven't got much time, but there's a clip from 2021 when she says she says, we have independent auditors and independent accountants, problems with the finance. Does that imply that she looked in? This guy has been... My overriding view is, I can't buy, a bald man buying a £350 hairdryer sitting in a onesie playing Grand Theft Auto. The whole thing's ludicrous. But that woman, the hypocrisy of her to now hot-foot it to London, to a country she doesn't want anything to do with, to escape whatever she's done or hasn't done or whatever she thinks or doesn't think in Scotland, is so goddamn hypocritical, Ryan, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. She has spent her political career decades and decades fighting for independence. As soon as there's a crumb of discomfort north of the border, she's running down here and she's trying, the big sob story in front of the television and cameras yesterday, and it just doesn't wash. It just seems incredible that you can be living with someone, you can be married to someone, and all these things, all these sort of goods, whether it's a Jaguar pulls up in the driveway. She must have been asking more questions. She will say, oh, we had, big salaries. Why wouldn't my husband be driving a Jaguar? But surely you've got to be asking questions.
And also her judgment, it comes into say, listen, we haven't got much time, or you haven't got much time. The other thing today, brace yourself, Keir. Downing Street later due to release more than 1,000 documents, shells, texts and emails between Mandelson and ministers. This has already brought Starmer down. It's just a matter of time, the Mandelson saga and his judgment. It's obviously going to engulf other people. Tell us a bit more about today. What time are we expecting the release? What do you expect to see, etc., etc.?
Yeah, I wouldn't expect anything before 3:30 because basically Parliament has to be sitting for these documents to be released. Parliament doesn't actually sit until 2:30. Then we'll expect some delay. So you can expect mid-afternoon. You can probably expect hundreds and hundreds of documents. And it's that communication between Lord Mandelson and the other cabinet ministers that we're really going to be looking at. I think everyone's made their mind up on Keir Starmer and Peter Mandelson.
Yeah.
He's made his bed and that point is over. But it's how far did Lord Mandelson have his tentacles all over the rest of government? What was his communication to cabinet ministers? Was he trying to influence, policy? How many meetings did he have with members of the cabinet and ministers? And it just seems that everyone thought Keir Starmer may have been running the show, but I think you might find by the end of today that it's Lord Mandelson who wanted to have his say on pretty much, lots of different policy areas. And I think we'll just get to see the full extent of that come the end of the day.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, Starmer is done for its timing, but you know, Streeting, Mahmood, Rayner, all of them, and of course, you know, we've listed the candidates as we should in the Makerfield by-election. We'll continue to do that. But Burnham seems to have got a pass on this because, of course, he hasn't been involved. And, you know, if you look at the front of the Mail this morning, quickly, buddy, you've not won anything yet, Andy, but he's rushing around Manchester like he's already ordained to be walking through the gates of number 10. Can I ask you the question I've been asking everybody all morning? You, personally, not just as a Sun journalist. If he did end up in Parliament and he ends up challenging Starmer and winning, do you think he has a right to govern, or do you think he has to call an election because the British public wouldn't accept it?
Yeah, they wouldn't accept it. You didn't get opposition leaders, all opposition MPs calling for a general election. But as we've seen over time, we've seen it with Rishi Sunak, we've seen it with Liz Truss, we saw it with Gordon Brown. These things just don't happen, mainly because Andy Burnham will obviously do extremely well in the Makerfield by-election. But he can't repeat that. He can't have that personal appeal in hundreds and hundreds of seats, across the country. So I think for him to then call a general election, all those Labour MPs, there'll be hundreds of them, losing their seats, and I just don't think there'll be that clamour for it. And also, you look at Gordon Brown when he nearly called that general election. It looked like the polls could just about be going in his way on a good day, but he pulled back from that because he probably thought he's just not going to win that big majority and get that mandate, probably moving towards sort of hung territory.
My argument is if Burnham does end in Downing Street and changes to the left, tax to the left, gets rid of stuff that hasn't been popular, then that was never voted for. That's my argument. That's me being honest.
Yeah, that is a totally valid point. Now, Andy Burnham is saying things like he's going to stick within the fiscal rules, he's going to spend money differently within those rules. It's going to be very, very hard for him to do too much differently. But again, as you say, he wants that big mandate and he really wants to lurch to the left, do things differently. You just wonder whether he brings that, general election date forward by a year or so. It's going to be interesting to see what he does, and I still think there'll be some kind of resistance from Downing Street on this. So let's just see where we are in about three weeks' time.
Good man. Listen, appreciate your time. Know you're in a hurry this morning. The excellent Ryan Saby, Deputy Political Editor of The Sun. Thank you, pal. 22 minutes to 9 o'clock. One of the big stories from last week, which is not going to go away, is the Manchester Airport attack. I think it was a couple of years ago, nearly now. We saw footage of a couple of police officers attacking somebody on the floor. Outrage, police and nightmares. 3 days later, real footage of these two human beings attacking police violently before they were tasered. Last week, the brothers accused of assaulting that police officer at Manchester Airport, Mohammed Fire Amaz and Mohammed Amak, were sensationally told there wouldn't be a third trial because the jury couldn't identify the right answer. It only takes 2 or 3 people, by the way, in a jury. I think it's true to say, no, I don't agree. This has created a real debate. Morning, Nigel.
Nigel from Peebles. Listening to the argument about jury service, I do agree with Peter Blacksley on that point, but why not, in any serious case involving a jury trial, the defendant is taken to a court well outside of their own area? That should negate most problems with juries knowing the defendant or being of the same group or whatever else might affect the result.
Thank you, Nigel. Let's head to the man that knows everything. Delighted to have him, top barrister in the country, Michael Mansfield, KC. Michael, good morning.
Good morning.
Treat me like the idiot I am, OK? And you will know that there are certain things when you're broadcasting one can't say. I'm looking at footage of this person, I'm allowed to say, well, I'm not allowed to say anything, kicking a policeman 6 times in the head. Can you explain me, as the country's leading KC, how in the name of God I can put faith in a system where more than, well, out of 12 people, at least 2 thought that that guy should get off? I don't understand it.
Well, last time I appeared on your programme, you actually weren't doing the interviewing, but I came on in order to strongly defend the jury system, which is under attack from this government, and I'm horrified by the attack. 50% are going to be cut. And the reason why I support jury system is that we have had it in place for hundreds of years because it is the one institution, independent of this program, independent of the police, independent of government, that passes judgment on a set of facts put before it. And it's not just a clip of film, it's much more than that, plainly. Now, one has to pause for a minute here. This is 2 juries, that's 24 citizens, over a period of 30 hours. 10 hours in the first jury, 20 hours in the second jury. There have been convictions, don't forget. One of them has been convicted already of the assaults on the 2 female police officers.
Let me just give the facts there. Mohammed Fahir Amaz has been in custody since last year after he was convicted at the first trial of assaulting 2 female officers and a member of the public. Absolutely.
Yes. And so that system, I place faith in. I mean, I've spent a whole career addressing juries because they're the one institution that have the time and have the trial took 5 weeks. And I think you cannot, and may I say, I'm not saying you particularly, but the media have a responsibility here to ensure that the full story is told, not one from a clip. And this is a very fine example, this case, it seems to me, that first a clip's put out there that's plainly out of context. And there's much more to it than that. Then another clip comes on and that changes the context. Then you hear the defense and what they say happened on the plane and all the rest of it before it landed. It's a much bigger story than the one you can only condense into 30 seconds or whatever. And you have to trust juries. Otherwise, you know, once you start undermining juries, we've got enough problem with institutions in the United Kingdom at the moment without starting to undermine them. And as the Chief Constable himself said, this was a thoughtful decision by the jury. You may not like part of it, but part of it is undoubtedly a conviction. So I think we mustn't run away and draw dramatic conclusions without being careful about a body of people who've had all the evidence put before them.
There was a voice note from Nigel before you came on, Michael. I'm so grateful as ever to have you on the show, and it's important we get all sides. And I understand entirely what you're saying, that there can be hysteria. But I think he tried to make a point that I know you'll answer, which is, well, actually, you can ask a question. Are you tried away from your area so that locals who might know you or a group that you might be part of cannot be on that selection process? Is that a legal fact?
Yes, you can be. It's called a change of venue, and often it's down to the parties. The prosecution have a responsibility to decide that as to whether they think there can be a fair trial as far as the state's concerned, and a defendant can say, I don't want to be tried here because it's going to be too much prejudice. A judge actually takes the decision. But I don't know the answer to this, but I don't think any application was made by anyone in this case to move it to another area, but the facility is there.
Do you have faith in the jury system? And I agree with you. Do you have faith? I mean, I guess, putting this correctly, I guess a lot of the media and a lot of people were appalled when the guy who on television is seen kicking a policeman and punching him 6 times in the head, right, irrespective of what you said, is then walking out of a court with his solicitor with a bloody great smile on his face.
Well, again, I don't make judgments about what people do outside court, particularly politicians, who one of them was reported by the judge to the Attorney General for comments that they made.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to judge, a defendant or anybody else, a police officer who smiles as being the be-all and end-all.
Yeah.
But can I just add this footnote? It's very important to remember that, in fact, there's much more to this case that has yet to come out. The Independent Office of the Police Conduct is examining this case and said, I think within the last few days, that their final report on the case as a whole, police protocols and so on, and discipline, is going to be produced very shortly, I think within the next week or so. I think that is going to be of importance in terms of casting yet another dimension on everything that's happened.
Listen, fascinating. People will have their views. Important on this show that we get all sides. Michael, thank you. Really, really appreciate your time this morning. it hasn't printed, Christian, so I don't know what you want me to say, but 8:45, if you do want to be on, if you have an opinion on that, delighted to hear from you. You know, a lot of people will say there are two sides to every story. There was that, I mean, Michael made the point, there was that initial footage of the police kicking those two people, and then, of course, there was, after that, other footage. People will have opinions. People will say, you know, did they get off because it was in that area or because they were part of a group? Others will say, we're not saying that's happening here, that's completely wrong. He made the point the police are looking into it. He also made the point that the head of the police says that it was a calm and thorough response. But whatever you think, right, when you look at that, and that, you know, that video is pretty chilling. I think the other point that Michael made, which is really interesting, is that, you know, we're all sat here going, Lammy wants to get rid of juries, yeah? And we're all going, no, that's the edifice, if you like, of it's central to British justice. But there's no doubt that juries are human beings, and there's no doubt that people will make mistakes, and there's no doubt that people will have certain views. And one wonders, you know, Lammy could be sitting there rubbing his hands with all the people jumping up and down. I've no idea. 0344 499 1000. Alan's in North Yorkshire. Morning, Al.
Good day, Jez. Glad you're back from Gambit, eh?
Just get on with it, please.
Right, 2 quick points, mate. First of all, words are terribly important. And that interview that Kuzenbeck, or whatever her name is, did with the little Scottish lady, Stop.
Koonsberg and the little Scottish lady is Sturgeon.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
I'm ever so old.
How old are you?
80.
80, man. You sound great for 80. What have you done this morning? Been done to some Pilates? Had a smoothie?
No, I've just eaten me toaster Marmite.
Have you? Marmite? And then you're off for a pint of beer and a fag later, yeah?
No, I don't do those things. I'm off to visit my wife. She's poorly.
Oh, that's
anyway,
right in the place. Go on.
I know it's no. Listen, the point is, words are terribly, terribly important, and that interview would have been rehearsed more often than an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. Trust me. The interviewer, Kuzenberg, said to her, "Are you in a new relationship?"
Yeah.
Look at the clip again. Are you in a new relationship?
Shall we look at the clip again? Hold on a sec. Let's play the clip again. This was Sturgeon on... I mean, he wants to talk about it. This was on her sexuality, which Laura Kunsberg wants to ask her. Have a watch.
You've been open before, too, about your sexuality, that you wouldn't put a label on it. Have you found a new relationship? Is that part of how you're living your life differently?
I mean, tempting though it is to grab the headlines of this interview with a personal revelation of that nature. No, I'm not in a new relationship. I am managing to live a different phase of life in a way that I am starting to find some peace and happiness. You know, it's been a bit blown apart in the last week, but I am happier, or getting to the point where I feel happier.
Do you buy anything she says, Al?
No, she was thinking on her feet then. She didn't say, no, I'm still in the same old relationship that I've had for the last 9 years. I mean, she could have said that, but she didn't. And she waffled and wackled and everything else. So sometimes me being I would have said something close to a moderately intelligent human being, certainly one that's lived long enough to spot things. Anyway, that's by the by. My main point for phoning Jeremy, if I may, is that judges, the perception from working class people like me, the perception of judges that they're all a bunch of Hugh Ray Henrys without any real connection to what the real life, that is to say the life of a busman, postman, milkman, whatever, real human beings like what I is. And they're all very upper class people, and they almost always end up in the House of Lords as well as. Shouldn't we have some sort of system whereby people that have lived a life and have got experience of life there might be a facility whereby normal people can also be.
You're not. Hold on a second. Not disrespecting your age, but you're not suggesting that people with experience of the real world who've done a real job and haven't had their arses wiped or given a silver spoon. You're not suggesting that normal people should stand to run this country. Are you? People who, don't pretend they're not flawed or haven't got their noses in the trough. You can't possibly suggest that those sorts of people are intelligent enough to be MPs. Looking at the wonderful bunch we've got. I'm completely with you, mate. Completely with you. I think it started with the expense scandal and it's only genuinely magnified by stories like Sturgeon and Lord Ali for Starmer and Boris Johnson and all that stuff. I think that the British public are fed up with the quality of politicians, fed up to the back teeth with their lies and then pretending to be something they're not and letting us down across the bloody board. I've thought that for a long, long time. Al, give my best to your wife. Really good to have you on, pal. Thank you very much indeed. This is Talk Breakfast. Have we got a voice note? We'll just go to the break then. It's you. You're in charge, Christian.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to 7 minutes to 9. So, Julia Hartley-Brewer here from 10. Ian Collins back from 1 o'clock this afternoon, and Kev would drive from 4 o'clock. Don't forget that thousands, well, about 1,000 documents, which include bombshell texts and emails between Mandelson and Labour ministers, will be released about 3:30. So, Ian will respond to that, and Kev will take you through drive time. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Let's do some sport. Can you push button, please, Big M?
In 90 seconds. From The Sun.
We'll say a very good morning to the brilliant Tom Barkley, football writer for The Sun. How are you, sir? Oh, we can't hear you. Brilliant.
Oh,
there we are. Can we hear you now?
Can you hear me? I can hear you, Jeremy. How are you?
Right, let's just do this, because I haven't spoken to you since West Ham were relegated. Let's just have it. Let's have it out. Come on.
Well, commiserations, Jeremy, is all I can say. I mean, I said Spurs still had a chance, and I felt for West Ham. Spurs turned it around, didn't they? The De Zerbi factor turned it around.
Yeah, crap. Yeah, good. Good luck to Spurs. Mate, lots to be said on the back of Sun Sport today. You parked the bus. Fergie quite critical of Arsenal's performance in that Champions League final. The lowest percentage of possession at 24.5% of any team since Arsenal 22 years ago, but only lost on penalties. Had won, obviously, the Premier League. What did you make of their performance, quickly?
Well, I think the fact that PSG battered Inter Milan 5-0 in the final last year suggested that a defensive approach was probably the right way to go about things, and it almost worked. If it wasn't for the fact that Arsenal many times this season, despite winning the Premier League, have been a little bit dull to watch and quite defensive, I don't think people will be going on about this as much. But that's the main reason for it.
Parade yesterday, lots in the paper about this. Chaos last night in North London. 75 fans rescued, 16 arrested, 1 stabbed. There's up to 1 million line the streets. That doesn't do football any favours, does it?
No, not ideal. I mean, 750,000, I thought I was the figure I read.
Oh, really?
In terms of numbers. But yeah, maybe close to 1 million. I mean, that's an amazing amount of people on the streets. I'd like to probably focus more on the positives. I mean, it's amazing to see that many people turn out and celebrate what's been obviously a fantastic title for Arsenal. But yeah, not ideal having that happen.
Also, shocking news. I mean, I was out yesterday when I heard this. Arne Slot, the other day, Saturday, sacked by Liverpool. End of season review. Wins the Premier League with Jurgen Klopp's team. Comes fifth. Just very quickly, what do you make of that news? Was it justifiable, Slot going from Liverpool?
I think it was justifiable, but it was surprising. It looked like after Xabi Alonso went to Chelsea, you just thought, OK, maybe they're sticking with Arne Slot. And then suddenly things changed. It looks like they're going for Andoni Iraola, who I think is a really good choice. Done fantastic work at Bournemouth. But yeah, probably a bit harsh on, I don't know about harsh, a surprise on Slot. And maybe harsh given what he did in his first season.
I would only say this to Areola, and I agree with you, great job at Bournemouth. Big difference between Bournemouth and Liverpool. That's all I would say. Listen, Tom, thank you so much indeed. Tom Barkley, football writer for The Sun. Everything you need to know about the football in the upcoming World Cup in the brilliant Sun Sport every day on the back of the newspaper the only one you should read. Right, 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. News at 9 after this. Morning, Shazza.
Morning, Jez. I know for a fact, the people are going to go, well, that were about the other things, but they actually were assaulting police officers. That in itself should be the top crime. The police are there to defend the people, and they can't defend the people when people are getting off by being able to attack the police. If I went out and attacked someone and it were on video, I'm certain I'd be doing either some time or I'd be on remand or whatever.
Good morning to you. This is Tour de Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Just breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation. And certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files was released in the last few weeks. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With permission, I'd like to provide the House with information that I now have about the appointment of Peter Mandelson as our ambassador to the United States. But, Mr. Speaker, before I go into the details, I want to be very clear with this House that while this statement will focus on the process surrounding Peter Mandelson's vetting and appointment, at the heart of this, there is also a judgment I made that was wrong.
The name had been submitted to the King as Minister's recommendation. The Prime Minister had made an announcement that Mandelson was his nominee without caveats. The British government had sought agrément, the formal diplomatic process for a host government accepting a nominee from the US government, and that had been obtained before I arrived in post. The position taken from the Cabinet Office was that there was no need to vet Mandelson.
Mr. Speaker, I know many members across the House will find these facts to be incredible. To that, I can only say they are right. It beggars belief that throughout the whole timeline of events, officials in the Foreign Office saw fit to withhold this information from the most senior ministers in our system in government.
This was not due process. Everyone knows the price of misleading the House. Will the Prime Minister finally take responsibility and go?
Mr. Speaker, let's be absolutely clear. Before Mandelson took up his post, UKSB recommended with red flags that clearance should be denied, and there was high concern that that was not brought to my attention or the attention of the Foreign Secretary at the time or subsequently is a very serious error of judgment. She rushed to judgment as she always did, just like the Iran war. Mr. Speaker, I was elected by the British people because they let the country down for 14 long years. Whatever she says, whatever noise they make, nothing is going to distract me from delivering for our country.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just gone 9 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Talk Breakfast. It's the home of common sense and where you, yes, you, Alarm Clock Britain, comes with your views on the day's news. Before we go into any details about Labour, and we're going to talk to David Maddox, political editor of The Independent. Today, they're releasing all those messages and emails. All Labour government officials are like, oh, my God, what was I going to say? David Maddox was the man who alerted Number 10 back in September that Mandelson had failed vetting. We'll talk to him in a sec, but I'm on a mission. Yeah, we've seen that. We'll take that off. I'm on a mission for a moment. The Nicola Sturgeon stuff is, as ever with you, Alarm Clock Brits, there's always one story that you're interested in. It's this one. She says, in an interview yesterday with Laura Kunsberg from the BBC, I'm not going to apologise. I said, I'm not going to apologise for what that awful man I was married to did. I had absolutely no idea. I didn't know about the onesie or the watches, the Jaguar. I didn't know about anything. And certainly, I didn't see a 25-foot-long motorhome parked up beside my in-laws' house. Just listen to this. This is her. I didn't see anything. Of course you didn't, Nick, because you can't, can you?
My mother-in-law, or my mother and father-in-law's house, has a driveway in front of their house where we would park our car and then we'd go into the house. Where the motorhome was round the side of the house, which is not immediately visible in the way that we went into the house. And it's between their house and the next door neighbour's house. Now, I genuinely don't have any conscious memory of seeing that motorhome. If I saw it, I probably would have assumed it was a neighbour's.
Can I just point out that Nicola Sturgeon has not been found guilty of anything and has denied any wrongdoing. It's just that a lot of us are thinking, so you live with him and you didn't say anything. And now, you hypocrite, you, having spent years wanting to leave the United Kingdom because you hate us and you wanted independence, have now moved to London to get away from the heat you're experiencing. And this is just a couple of things I wanted to add. Is it not ironic that her name is Nick? Thank you, Christian. And also, can I call out to any man listening to this, right? Peter Murrell spent £400,000 on he must have a shopping addiction, because some of the stuff he bought was unbelievable. A £3,000 coffee machine, all right. A 2,000 set of salt and pepper grinders. They're shakers, but I thought I'd add that to give it a bit of gravitas. Luxury watches, and a few other things. This man bought a onesie, a Dyson airdryer, he's bald, by the way, a Grand Theft Auto video game, and a one... Right. Is there anyone listening to this right now who on text can admit to owning a onesie? Having a hairdryer if you're bald? Watching Grand Theft Auto at 60 years of age? Mark's nodding. Have you got a onesie, Mark? I would love to hear from... It must be me. I'm going mad. 87222. Start your message with the word talk. The other big story today, Downing Street on red alert. They're about to release more than 1,000 documents. 3:30, we reckon, this afternoon, which will include texts and emails between Mandelson and other ministers. So it's already got Starmer. Who else is it going to engulf? Morning, Carl.
Hi, Jamie. Carl in Bowie. These documents are all being released today. Do we really believe that they're going to release all the documents? They're not going to hold some back? How does this system work? Does it like an independent judicator that decides, that goes into all these different tech places or computers and then pulls up all the emails? How do they do it? I don't understand it, but I just don't trust this government one bit. I think they've just been one cover-up after another. Cheers.
Let's say a very good morning to David Maddox, political editor of The Independent, and the man who first alerted Number 10 to the fact that Mandelson back in September had failed the vetting. Morning, David.
Morning, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm still trying to get over the Sturgeon thing. Do you know what somebody's just said to me as I'm trying to do the Mandelson thing? Somebody's just said, you know, they parked it in the in-laws down the side, which she didn't realise. Did Morell's parents not say to the neighbours, I see, that's a nice new motorhome. Why have you parked it on my drive? No, didn't say that. Didn't mention it. It's honestly, but let's just do this quickly. This is just one of the most bizarre stories I've ever heard. But you know what? She's such a pontificator, and she's been so judgmental. She's getting it all, and quite rightly, isn't she, David?
Well, she is. I mean, I should say that she's got one thing in common with Keir Starmer, which is that they're both lawyers, and those responses were a very lawyerly answer. To, I saw nothing, you go and prove that I did, sort of thing. And, I mean, let's be frank here. I mean, I had a lot of dealings with Nicola Sturgeon when I worked for the Scotsman. Not very pleasant dealings. She's not a very nice person at all, even by political standards. But she was one of 3 signatories to the SNP accounts. She was the leader of a party, and most importantly, she was the person who tried to crush any investigation to what ended up being the criminal investigation of her husband. And the idea that she knew nothing is one which I guess people will struggle to believe.
And I think that's the problem. And I think, people can make a joke about it, but there's a deeper issue here. 2 for me. One is this just symptomises, in my mind, how many people in this country have given up on any belief in politicians, that any of them really tell the truth, aren't in it for their own ends. We think very quickly to Starmer striding into 10 Downing Street, it's time for grown-up politics, noses out the trough. Within 3 days, Lord Ali's providing suits and glasses, and the rest is history. But it's the audacity of a woman who made her whole political career based around Scottish independence to stick 2 fingers up to that country at the first sign of trouble and hot-foot it to London to live in the very country she spends her entire life slagging off. It's beyond me.
Well, they all love London. I remember speaking to a prominent member of the SNP, dedicated his entire life to the separation of Scotland from the Union. And he said to me, of course, as soon as it happens, I'm moving to London because all my friends are here. It's much better down here. It's like, why do you want to leave so badly? It's like, but there you go. It'd be like Brexiteers wanting to go and live in Brussels or Paris, I guess. But
completely agree with you. Right, my friend, the story that you were really central to back in September. you, via text to the then Chief of Staff, alerted Number 10 to the fact that you'd found out that Peter Mandelson had failed the security vetting but had still been made the ambassador to America. We see it there. You sent this to Tim Allen, wasn't it?
That's right.
Who was the Chief of Staff. I've been told, you put, by two sources now, that Mandelson, in fact, did not clear vetting with MI6, but the PM pushed his appointment anyway. The problem was China, not Epstein, though. Is there any comment on this, David? And all you got back was vetting done by FCDO in normal way. This whole Mandelson disgraceful saga has already accounted for Keir Starmer, and I think quite rightly, in terms of his judgment. And to be honest, it's not when, it's not if, it's when. But how many more of this government, whether they stick their heads above the parapet and want to succeed him, do you think are going to be embroiled in this mess?
Well, I think the extraordinary release of documents we're expecting today should, you know, in the minds of many of us, should put the final nail into Keir Starmer's coffin, unless they're withholding even more information. I mean, the box remarks that he was supposed to have filled in and signed were empty last time. We're all going to be looking at whether we see his comments this time. But the real story, you're right, is actually how widespread the malign influence of Peter Mandelson was, you know, expecting texts and messages with lots of MPs, lots of ministers. And, you know, it would just be interested to see how much they were currying his favour, how much they were in his really sphere of influence. And the damage this can potentially do to Labour as a brand. I mean, we saw what happened to the Tories over, you know, the last few years of their government, and how their brand is struggling really to, you know, even though they've got a popular leader in Kemi Badenoch, they're struggling to recover.
The brand's toxic.
Labour,
you're right.
Done. Labour might be done on this. It's much, much, much worse.
I mean, I completely agree with you. You're the political editor of The Independent, you'd know, but from an outside point of view, I would say that the toxicity around the Conservative Party supersedes Badenoch. I've said every day on this station, I think she's the right person at the wrong time. And I think the result of that is that she is probably fighting a losing battle, because the British public won't believe the Tories for a long time to come. I'd say the same about Labour. To come to power and to make such a thing about how you're going to change, and then to be seen or to be proven to be the same, if not worse, than what came before, is a real damning indictment. And I think that's probably where we are politically. But you know, off will scurry Starmer at some point, and as you quite rightly say, Streeting, Rayner, Miliband, whoever, who's implicated this, who's up to their necks, and then of course. And we've been broadcasting all morning, and we have to be careful during a by-election. There is one in Makerfield. I'll read the candidates in a sec. We've got Andy Burnham, you know, who seems to have already decided that he's going to be the next Prime Minister, and that opens up another can of worms in my mind.
Well, absolutely. And I think with Andy Burnham, the bubble, the Westminster bubble, the media bubble, are underplaying the possibility of a Reform victory there. I don't think it's off the cards at all. And if Andy Burnham loses, it will cause utter chaos in the Labour Party. But
I said last week, if we're talking about it, and we will read all those candidates, it must be the first time in British political history where an incumbent Prime Minister is hoping for the opposition to win the seat, so that the bloke that gets in doesn't take the axe to his career. But the whole thing, the thing about Andy Burnham, which the Mail sum up nicely, you know, apparently he's already planning this, that, and the other. This is personally, as a voter, love to know what you think. I have a real problem. I had it with the Tories. I have it with defections from whatever party. I don't believe that you can come in, replace Starmer, change policy in terms of manifesto and rule for 3 years. I think that is fundamentally, completely and utterly flawed. I know they'll all say to me, no, but they voted for Labour. The fact is, as a figurehead, the fact is, as a manifesto. And if Andy Burnham stands on a policy of I'm going to go to the left, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, that's not what the British people voted for, David, is it?
No, it's not, and I think the pressure to have an early election will be immense. Actually, if Andy does win, I think there will be an early election. There's certainly reports are coming up on that. I think there will be, because it will catch reform before they're properly prepared. The Tories, as we've said, are still a complete mess, despite the leadership seem to be resolved. It'd be the perfect time to strike. They would have a reduced majority, but they could still win it then. And he would have just proven that he could beat reform. So it's, I think the likelihood is that there would be an election next year if Andy Burnham wins. If he doesn't,
but would he allow that? Because hundreds of Labour MPs would fundamentally lose their seats.
Well, but it may be the best option to save many of them. To be frank, if they hold on till 2029, they could be staring at oblivion by then. And you're absolutely right, a new Prime Minister with a new manifesto, essentially, that wasn't elected, will struggle to get almost anything through Parliament. The Lords, for example, can have free rein on stuff that's not in a manifesto. It's one of the reasons, way back, Theresa May went to the people after she became Prime Minister.
And nearly lost to Jeremy Corbyn.
Well, exactly, but she knew she couldn't get anything through. She couldn't do anything. So that's why she had to go. And I suspect the same will be the case whoever takes over from Keir Starmer.
Very interesting. Let's just go back to those Mandelson files. We say about 3:30 we'll follow and talk. What do you expect to be in them?
Well, we should hopefully get the Prime Minister's own thoughts. That's really what's top of my list of things to look out for. But again, as I was saying, the widespread nature of the complicity amongst Labour MPs and ministers as well in the dealings with Mandelson, and just how influential this man is or was. I think he still is, actually. I think he's still having conversations in the background.
This is the bit, and you know this, I don't. Of course we're excited about, will there be text from Starmer, responses from Starmer, what about Streeting, what about all the other people? But I'd love to get your view on this. What is it that this man has or had that seemed to exert... I mean, there was pictures, wasn't there, during about a year in a cabinet reshuffle, and he was going through the back door of number 10 Downing Street for a meeting with McSweeney while Starmer was obviously in Davos or something, talking about trees or lack of trees. How did he have such control? How did he have such... Is it just years of networking, or, as the cynics amongst us believe, has he got on all of them? Because he must have a lot on all of them, that's all I can think.
I think that he is a master manipulator. I have to say that. I think he wields immense power, but people saw him as the one kind of political figure who could get things done within the Labour movement. He came out of that Blair era, having gone through other scandals and other mishaps, still with that reputation intact. They kind of saw him, either on the left as this evil figure who should be cast out, or on the right of the party as this kind of godlike figure who, magic touch brought power wherever it went.
Well, we have to point out that he denies any wrongdoing, and we have to keep pointing that out for legal reasons. But I thought it was also very interesting that the man that he supported, defended, stuck up for and did all the dirty work, Tony Blair, wrote a 5,000-word essay which came out at the weekend, which seems to have alienated the left and the right. I think I might fall off my chair when I say this, about bearing in mind he was responsible for the immigration problems in part, but I have to say that about 90% of that sounded to me like conservative centrist policy. It was extraordinary, but accurate.
Well, I think Kemi Badenoch said that it was more like supporting her policies than Labour's. And I think it was, actually. I mean, Labour have somehow disavowed themselves from their most successful leader and Prime Minister for some time now. And, I agree.
Not Mandelson, which is really weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And... But Blair kind of carries their sins of the past. They could never cope. I mean, actually, I think Kemi summed this up very well. They just can't cope with being in power. I mean, look at this, 2 years into a government, less than 2 years, and they are completely falling apart because they can't make difficult decisions. They can't actually kind of agree on anything. They just want to be a party of protest at heart.
Yeah.
And that's what they hate about Tony Blair, because Tony Blair was a bit like the Tories. He is somebody who looked at power, getting power, keeping power, and using it to its ends.
And I think that's the point, doing something.
Alien.
And I think that's the thing about conviction politicians, actually, because I've always cited Thatcher and Blair alongside each other, and of course there was a lot about Blair that I didn't agree with, but he had a plan and he got elected on that plan 3 times, and he stuck to that plan like Thatcher. Love it or hate it, all I've seen is dither and drift and indecision. There's not been... I would almost have admired Keir Starmer and said, you might all disagree with it, but that's what I'm going to do, and whatever detractors but he doesn't do that. Focus group, listen here, upset them, please them, and you end up with this mishmash and nothing positive really happens. So it'll be really, really interesting today. And David, thank you. You'll be keeping an eye on this, I'm guessing.
It's going to be a long day, a long day.
Well, thank you for your time this morning, my friend. Thank you so much indeed. David Maddox, political editor of The Independent, the man who first alerted Number 10 back in September to the fact that Mandelson had failed the vetting process. The Mandelson saga that has brought Keir Starmer down. It's now a matter of when, not if. Today, Downing Street will be publishing more than 1,000 documents, which will include bombshell texts and emails between Mandelson and ministers. How much were his greasy little fingers all over lots of people? Who's going to end up being implicated? Who's going to escape free? There's also arguments this morning. The Met Police are involved, saying don't give all out. How much is being covered up by the Cabinet Office? What do we know? I can't believe what David Maddox just said. David Maddox just said that he's still talking to people in the Labour Party. This man is going to bring down this government. It's unbelievable. We also touched upon the Makerfield by-election. As ever, we're doing this job correctly, or as correctly as we can. This is a list of your candidates. Jake Austin stands for the Liberal Democrats. Count Binface for his own party, Count Binface Party. Andy Burnham, of course, the Labour Party. Dan Clark, the Libertarian Party. John Dyer for the Independents. Ed Gemmell, the Climate Party. Paul Gould, the Independent. Alan Howling, Lord Hope, the official monster raving loony party. Robert Kenyon, Reform UK. Robert Pownall, Protect the Wild. Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain. Sarah Wakefield, the Green Party. Peter Ward, Rejoin the EU. And Michael Winstanley, the Conservative Party. That's your list of candidates.
Morning, Jezza. Great show. Just listening to your conversation with the KC about the Manchester case. I'm sorry, I don't know how those juries did not find those 2 little thugs guilty of assaulting that male police officer. I know that one of them has been found guilty of attacking the female officer, but no, they went into full attack mode when they were approached by the police. It was disgusting behaviour, and I fail to see how 2 juries did not find them guilty. And, you know, we've got to bear in mind that if this had happened in any other country, in any other airport, those 2 men would have been shot on the spot. Absolutely done, because, you know, a police officer in other countries is absolutely within their rights to do that. So I think they've got off scot-bloody-free, and it really, really pisses me off. Sorry, furious about this.
This is Tour the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Just breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation. And certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files as released in the last few weeks. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9:25. Julia here from 10, Ian from 1, and Kev O'Sullivan with drive time from 4 o'clock. Before we get back to things, I'll share a little story with you. The male toilets on floor 17 here are blocked. So I decided to try and use the... That's locked. We've been to the executive... That's locked. I've got to get through 35 minutes, but Tommy's just come up with a really good suggestion. Why don't I identify as Jeremiah, Kyle, for the next 10 minutes and go and look? You see, honestly, you wouldn't understand what we go through. I'm sitting with my legs crossed for 35 minutes. Don't say a word. Jeremiah. Jemima! I even got that wrong. Well done. Very good. Well done. Can't even get that right, Jemima. 0344 499 1000. Terry, Blair was a disaster and still is. Annie's in Northampton. I'm a 73-year-old female ex-school teacher and I play Call of Duty, so Grand Theft Auto is plausible on all levels. Yes, it might be, Annie, but do you in fact wear a onesie? And have you spent 350 quid on a Dyson airdryer and you're bald? I suspect you're not, and I suspect you haven't. Keith Alderson. Dear Jeremy, last year I was flying out of Gatwick to Cyprus. There was a hold-up and the final boarding counter as 5 men were being prevented from boarding. Eventually 4 very large armed police officers arrived and arrested one of the men and took them away. The fact that it was 4 very large male armed officers rather than women must have had an impact on why it never kicked off. Keith in Oswestry talking about that miscarriage of justice in many people's minds. In Manchester, Maggie in London. Hello, Mags. I like Carl Turner. Don't agree with his politics, but I find him a decent bloke. As for the Mandy documents, you can bet there will be loads of redactments from it. It started already with what the police have already said overnight. Interesting. Alison in South Wales. Morning, Jez. With the release of these papers this afternoon, which country does Starmer run to today? Interesting. Is he in the countries off to Davos? John's from Poole. Don't know why I did that. Morning, Jez. Nicola Sturgeon. Jez, I would presume Sturgeon is unemployed, in fact, for quite some time now. Rentals in London do not come cheap. Maybe someone could start by investigating where her rental money's coming from. Terry, sorry, Carl Turner thinks Angela Rayner's good. That's changed my view forever. John from Angus, or Angus from John, I've no idea. One of the reasons Nicola Sturgeon might decide to move down to bloody England is pay less tax, as in Scotland we pay more, which her bloody administration brought in. Do you? More than us? John's in Aberdeen. I'm surprised that nobody's got a Google Earth picture of her mother-in-law's house to see if there's even possible space to park a motorhome where she claims. Interesting. Surely Sturgeon's favourite band is Salt and Pepper, says Gareth in Reading. Nice. See what we did there? The old grinders. Sturgeon has the same amnesia when she was in front of the Scottish Parliamentary Committee regarding the Alex Salmond sexual harassment inquiry. She was criticised for repeatedly claiming she didn't recall or forgot key details. It's been said a lot. Let's say a very good morning. I haven't spoken to him for a couple of weeks. The legend, the former political editor of The Sun, Trevor Kavanagh. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy.
Now, Trev, I just want to ask you something, please. You're sat in your kitchen. I can see a salt and pepper thing just by your microwave. Did your wife buy that for $2,000 and not tell you?
The Laliques, yes. I gather the Lalique connoisseurs do not believe in using a Lalique product. They are supposed to be beautiful and for looking at, not for shaking over your dinner. So this says something about the taste of and the acquisitiveness of these two people. I mean, look, nobody believes that Nicola Sturgeon was ignorant of what her husband and fellow Scottish Nationalist Party leader was doing in the terms of spending the party's money. The party's money that had been put aside for independence campaigning. I mean, it couldn't get worse, could it?
No, and I think that's the point. I know we joke, and this man who's bald spends £350 on a Dyson hairdryer. He sits in front of the Grand Theft Auto video in his onesie, having climbed up a ladder to his. I mean, the whole thing's farcical, completely farcical. But to me, it goes deeper than that, Trev. And this is what I wanted to say to you. She was really judgmental when things, certainly during COVID, she was always batting against the government of the day and they didn't get everything right. I acknowledge that. She always put herself out there as being, you know, a woman of the people. And some time ago, just wanted to say this to you, right? So a lawyer friend of mine who'd helped me out with the defamation thing. And I said to him, where are you? I don't know if you've heard this story. He said, oh, I'm at the Labour Party conference. I said, what are you doing there? He said, because I'm the leading defamation KC in England, mate, and politicians are my bread and butter. And I said, at the Labour Party conference, and he said to me something that stayed with me forever, and I'm not even trying to offend. I said, what's the difference between the Tories and the Labour Party? He said, the Tories are interested in rent boys and cocaine, and the Labour Party, like many people on the left, are interested in money. And it did come back to me this morning when I read this. For somebody who pontificated about, you know, independence and the right of working people, she lives this lifestyle, and at the first sign of trouble, Trev, has hot-footed it to London and doesn't give a toss about the people of Scotland anymore.
No, I don't think they do. And it was all a vehicle for power. And the idea that the Tories are only interested in rent boys and cocaine and the Labour Party in money. I think that Labour has spread now to include rent boys and cocaine as well as money. So, look, the whole thing about independence in Scotland is a scam. I don't think that the policy of trying to go independent never had a prayer, really, because the Scots are canny. They know that when they finally sever the knot in the link with Westminster, they're on their own. They haven't got any money. They haven't got North Sea oil at the moment.
No.
So, and I had many arguments about this with Alex Salmond, and won a number of bets with him over the outcome of various referendums. He never paid, by the way. So it tells you something about the Scots. They're very canny with their money.
I just find her sort of, you know, it was all over the papers today, refusing to apologise. And whether we, you know, she says she's not done anything wrong, he's been convicted, she hasn't. But this sort of wanting people to believe it, and the sort of, I don't know if you saw it, did you watch the interview? Started crying as if anybody's going to feel sorry for a woman who passed judgment on everybody. I think it's going to be a really interesting. I want to play you a clip, actually, because they've been asking for me to play this all morning. The other thing that worries me is that she says she knew nothing about it. This was 2021, Trev, about the SNP's finances. Have a watch.
I'm not concerned about the party's finances. The finances of the SNP are independently audited. Our accounts are sent to the Electoral Commission in common with other parties and, of course, published, so there's full scrutiny around that. Money hasn't gone missing. All money goes through the SNP accounts, independently and fully audited. We don't hold separate accounts. We're under no legal requirement to do that. Our accounts are managed on a cash flow basis, but every penny we raise to support the campaign for independence will be spent on the campaign for independence.
Trevor, independently audited, so the people that audited it, they need to be investigated as well, don't they?
Well, I think that little clip showed clearly and distinctly the old saying that when a politician, you know how a politician is lying when their lips are moving. I mean, every single word she uttered there was a lie. And frankly, if she were on the right of politics, she would have been cancelled long before now. And the idea that she's fled to London, which she's always held up to contempt, to make her money. I think that she should be banned from all public forums and the sort of areas that politicians make money in when they've finished being politicians. And that's what would happen to a right-wing politician who had committed, in my view anyway, she was complicit and an accessory to everything that Marol was doing.
It's interesting, isn't it? There was a story over the weekend that said it's not a big story, but it rather sums up what you just said about the BBC. Nigel Farage has been banned from life for Desert Island Disc because apparently it would make the BBC staff feel uncomfortable. The man with such outrageous views should be in their building. But Nicola Sturgeon was employed by the BBC for the local election and the general election coverage and paid handsomely to do so. You're absolutely right. That smacks of everything that's wrong. The other thing I want to ask you from your experience, somebody said this morning, this was held back to not be before the local elections because one wonders whether this would have wiped out the SNP in Scotland if this had happened 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Yes, another example, frankly, of the unspoken corruption that has riven Scotland in the period since the SNP got to power.
Yeah.
I mean, Scotland has always been a pretty much a political playground for the Labour Party. It was taken for granted by the Labour Party until they were knocked out by the SNP. So, frankly, I think that they're probably used to corruption in their politics up there. But, you know, the SNP has taken that and enlarged upon it. They've parlayed it into a way of life. I mean, everything that they've touched has turned to dross. Their ferries, their NHS, their action on crime and punishment. You know, they've messed up Scotland big time and permanently.
It's interesting here, Linda in Stalybridge says, can I ask Trevor, will she still get her First Minister pension or expenses for life like previous Prime Ministers in England?
I'm sorry to have to say, yes, she will, unless she is convicted of anything to do with the Murrell saga. And frankly, I do believe that she deserves, at the very least, to be called in for a proper police investigation. And she should not be allowed to get away with simply saying no comment.
I just want to show you this, because I like to make you laugh, Trevor. This was a BBC gaffe some time ago, but I play this for old time's sake on the show. This was when BBC Breakfast with Charlie State and Anna Machete introduced Nicola Sturgeon a few years ago. Have a watch.
Hello, this is Breakfast with Naga Manchetti and Charlie State.
It's 6:30, it's Friday the 14th of October. Let's tell you what's coming up on the programme. We're going to be joined by Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon. We'll talk to her about plans for a second referendum on independence.
I'm sorry, we've very clearly run the wrong pictures of that particular sequence. My apologies there.
That was actually a picture of Jimmy Krankie. Have you seen that before, Trev?
I love that. Absolutely hilarious. In fact, the sad thing is that they are actually quite lovable.
Yeah, I was going to say the Crankies have got more of a career going forward. Now, the other big news today, sir, Downing Street expecting to publish more than 1,000 documents this afternoon, including emails, bombshell emails and texts between Mandelson, who's already brought down Starmer, hasn't he, and other ministers. Now, there seems to be an argument on what might be redacted and what the police and other people, but the most important thing, presumably today, is how much of a mire this drags other ministers, either with leadership ambitions or whatever, going forward. Isn't that the case of today?
I think so. And the only things that should be redacted is anything whatsoever that might possibly impinge on a criminal prosecution. Otherwise, everything should be open to the public. And once it is, we'll find out just how manipulative Peter Mandelson was in the political life of our country. And we do know that actually he was very critical of Keir Starmer privately and semi-publicly. And I was a witness to that at a lunch which was held on Chatham House rules. So, of course, I can't tell you anything. But what I can say is that big questions were being posed about why the Labour government, this was before the election, had no real manifesto. And that this would be something that would be essential for any party that was coming in with a plan that they would find themselves tested once they put it into operation as the public became dissatisfied. And he said that that's exactly what Blair did, and he went out and fought for every single policy, popular or unpopular. The Starmer government came in with no plan at all, and then introduced all sorts of things like national insurance and tax increases. They got rid of the winter fuel allowance and 100 other things that, had they made it clear those were in prospect, certainly would not have won by such a landslide and may not have won at all.
Well, that's the old Ming Vase policy, isn't it? Because the Tories were so completely and utterly hated and the brand had become so toxic. I remember saying he doesn't need to say anything. He doesn't need to say anything. Do you think, just also very quickly, my friend, and we'll follow it on Talk. It'll be about 3:30 this afternoon, so Ian and then Kev will take that through with Drive Time. he's a goner, Starmer. It's when, not if. The one person, and there is a by-election, we've been reading out the candidates, we continue to do so. Andy Burnham wants to be elected in Makerfield and stride into Parliament, take on Starmer and become our next Prime Minister. I'd love your take. You're a bit more old-fashioned than me. I've always said I don't think that's right. If this guy's going to change the direction of a party or bring in stuff that nobody voted for, does he have well, he has a constitution, right? But I can't see that there won't be untold pressure to hold a general election. I just don't see that. I can't see it.
No, I've been saying for some time that if they change the Prime Minister 2 years into a government with a landslide election victory, they must hold a general election in order to give the incoming Prime Minister the imprimatur he needs to run the country. And I don't think, actually, that we can guarantee that Andy Burnham is going to be the next MP for Makerfield or Makerfield. Why would people now vote for a carpetbagger MP or a candidate when he's been dumped twice by the party as a potential candidate for the leadership and has now done a runner from Manchester City Council? I don't see any reason why the people in Makerfield would be so stupid.
Well, I can't talk about that, but what I can say is I don't speak to... there seems to be this, I don't even know, this sort of almost like halo around Andy Burnham, and I'm sure there are good points to him. I'm not here to say... But I'm not sure when I look at him whether this is him getting to the top of the tree because he's cerebrally brilliant or has conviction or has answers to this country's problems. It's just because right now he seems to be on the tip of everybody's tongue and has done OK in a couple of polls. The fact of the matter is this Labour government, and before it this Tory government, has created a country where the cost of living's through the roof and real hard-working Brits are struggling. And, what's he going to do, print money or borrow more money? And we'll be even more screwed. And that, for me, is the issue, which is why the British people are going to have to decide. But why would the Labour Party vote for an election when about 90% of them will lose their bleeding seats?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there when you said that if Burnham becomes leader and Prime Minister, we will be even more screwed. And we're being pretty screwed already. So, look, I think there are two examples which need to be looked at. First of all, there was Neil Kinnock when he claimed victory effectively in the Sheffield Valley before being pronounced totally wiped out. And then there was Ed Miliband in 2015 when everybody assumed he was going to win that election, and he didn't.
Couldn't agree more. Listen, great to have you on, my friend. We'll watch with interest what comes out this afternoon, who's been toadying up to Mandelson, and we'll keep going with the Sturgeon stuff. Thank you so much indeed. The legend that is Trevor Kavanagh. As ever, when we talk about Makerfield, I'll say it all day because I'm straight with you. We need to list the candidates. I'm going to do it live. It's OK, I'm all right with it. Jack Austin for the Liberal Democrats. Count Binface, the Count Binface Party. Andy Burnham standing for Labour in Makerfield. Dan Clark for the Libertarian Party. John Dyer is an independent. Ed Gemmell for the Climate Party. Paul Gould is an independent. Howling Lord Hope for the official monster raving loony party. Robert Kenyon standing for Reform UK. Robert Pownall for Protect the Wild. Rebecca Shepherd for Restore Britain. Sarah Wakefield for the Green Party. Peter Ward for rejoining the EU. And Michael Winstanley for the Tory Party. That's your lineup of candidates. The Makerfield by-election, June the 18th. We'll follow it live here. Sturgeon's got you riled. Morning, Matt.
Hi, Jezza. Matt in Warrington, loading the van. Makes me laugh, all this with the SNP. You know, they're such a righteous bunch. They all want their independence and they're all this hoo-ha and we're so bad and they're so good and England's this and England's that. And, you know, it makes me laugh. The guy who's running the joint's robbing them blind. And they're not batting an eyelid. They're still going on about independence. Well, we'll crack on. Ta-ra. Taxi for Scotland. Anyway, great show. Hope you enjoyed your holiday.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9:45 on a sunny Monday morning, the 1st of June, 2026. This is Jeremy Carl. Only for 15 more minutes. No, I'm not going on holiday. I'm back tomorrow morning. Julia here from 10. Loads in the news. Nobody's letting go of Sturgeon. Nobody seems to... Somebody said to me, right, leave it. Joanna from Salisbury, she keeps saying her and her husband have separate bank accounts. As a married couple, surely any money gets thrown in the pot, so it's owed back by both of them. I don't know. I don't know how it works. It's not for me to say how they work their finances. Were they married? Was it a front? Who went to the motorhome? Did he? Did she? Did the... never mind. Jez, Sturgeon should be banned from England as she's not conducive to the public good. That's probably why she's left Scotland. Hi, Jez. The Sturgeon debacle is being made into a comical situation. It simply is not. She was the leader of Scotland. Her husband held a senior position in the SNP. This is corruption of the gravest kind. Can you imagine if this was Starmer and Mrs Starmer, or Farage and Mrs Farage, or Boris and Mrs Boris? Says Paul in Fife. I thought you were going to stop there. Good point. Imagine if it was somebody. You heard, I think it was Trevor Kavanagh said it. If anybody on the right had done this, they'd be absolutely cancelled and pilloried. She's doing the media rounds and making money. Absolute joke. Michael's in Norfolk. Don't know why I did that. Good morning, Jez. Violent assaults in this country are becoming more frequent because those involved know they will not be met with lethal force as our police are unarmed. That's from nowhere, but we take it. Rob Strathpeffer. Is that his name? Strathpeffer? Or is there a place called oh, God, why have I said that? There's probably 14 places called Strathpeffer or Peffer. Jez, didn't you realise that due to the SNP, I pay 1% more income tax than my colleagues in England? And what do we get for that? Absolutely nothing. I reckon that's Scottish, Strathpeffer. Strathpeffer. Did you like the way I did that? Not at all. 0344 499 1000. I've been away for a week, camping in a tent that was that hot. I thought I was going to... Never mind. And I've missed this... Yes, I'm going to... Next time, I'm deciding... Yeah, Christian's right. Next time, I'm just going to go to Scotland and nab that van that nobody's stayed in, that the SNP paid for. Let's say a very good morning to a woman who I missed. When I don't speak to this woman, I feel bereft. Royal biographer and legend, Angela Levin. Good morning.
Good morning.
You've done your hair. You've done your hair. Have you been buying a Dyson £350 hairdryer? What's going on?
No, I just had it cut a bit.
Now, do you have a onesie?
No.
Have you watched Grand Theft Auto?
No.
Have you got a library ladder?
No.
Have you ever spent £2,000 on a pair of salt and pepper grinders?
No.
Brilliant. Peter Morell did. Anyway, Angela Levin, welcome to the show. Where shall we start? Prince Harry said to Bowley, that charity that fell out in arguments and he had to resign, it's happened again. His African charity, African Parks, he's been urged to resign from because people that work for them are being accused of rape and torture. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the ginger one, but his choice of anything is fundamentally flawed yet again, Angela, isn't it?
Yes, he worked there for quite a long time. He liked it a great deal. And he was in charge for about 8 years, I think. But then this trouble started coming along. And he decided that he wouldn't keep going back. In fact, he wasn't going back very much. So he would actually go on the board. And he's now asked to step down because of all these problems. People are being raped and attacked, and they don't like it. Of course not. And he's not really doing very much that he said he would.
So African Parks is a charity, I guess, I'm just filling in the gaps, that talks about conservation and countryside in Africa. Yes. This is some rangers who worked, have been accused of rape and torture, and Harry has been urged to resign. But it does smack of, that's the second charity that he's going to have to walk away from. It smacks of bad judgment again, doesn't it, Angela?
Well, I think it's Africa. He loved Africa and he was there an awful lot. But I think Meghan, who pretended that she liked it but didn't at all, he didn't go there. He didn't go over.
Did he stop going when she didn't like it? Is that another bit of control from her?
I'm sure that's a control from her.
Let's talk about her. How could I do a segment with you, Ms. Levin, without talking about the horrible one? It's quite interesting. I saw Meghan...
But I'll tell you what I think is absolutely hilarious.
Oh.
Is what she's made now. She's made toilet paper and a little bin that you just put the thing in and rub around the toilet.
Sorry?
And
She's made toilet paper?
Yes, that's for us as ever. That's now open for us to buy, or maybe it's still in America. Plus, Harry, he's called Harry's Little Things, and they're little cotton wool things in a little bag with her label on it.
Right, hold on a minute, because I was about to ask about the kids on social media. She's made, we've gone from jam to bog paper. Now, has it got her face on it?
No.
Because that'd be good to wipe your backside with her face, wouldn't it?
I wonder, does she think that this is what people are going to buy?
But let's just be honest, this is toilet paper created by... One wonders if Peter Morell stole 108 toilet rolls with Meghan's face on. But you know that you're talking about cotton wool balls. Have they got Harry's face on as you dab your zits?
No, they've got his name on. It's got his name on.
I've just got this spot. Hold on, let's get Harry to wipe. It's dreadful.
I mean, it makes you shakes because it's so revolting.
She'll do anything for money, because I was going to ask you about the fact that I saw her about a week and a half ago going, social media is absolutely outrageous, and quite rightly, we talk about children's safety. We've seen more about the child Lilibet in the past year as ever before, as she's desperate to use her kids to sell her brand, isn't she?
Yeah, well, this is, I feel very sorry for this little girl.
Yeah.
Because she knows now, she's at 4, that she has to always have her back away to any camera. She has to not let anybody see her. And I think it's so cruel. The last thing, when she was, Meghan was off somewhere, she had to sit in front of Meghan on the floor and just look up at her. Now that's saying, look at me, I'm just the most amazing person you can find.
She might have been going, Mummy, I need some toilet roll, I've done a poop. On a serious note, before we let you go, I love you so much. Andrew Mount, this is just, you know, you and me, all we joke, we're royalists. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor invited me to his home, his private home. Jeffrey Epstein's personal assistant makes new claims against the already shamed royal. Where does this end, Angela? Where does it end?
This woman is Sarah Keller. She was a sort of second personal assistant to Ghislaine Maxwell. And she was 17 when she first met him. And when she was 21, he felt that she was ideal. So she brought in a lot of girls. She's actually denied that, but what's there to read is that she said that may be true or not. And she was invited to him either, you know, to the Buckingham Palace or to some other place, a royal lodge, she thinks. But this is where she felt that she was raped. So we don't know. Can
I ask a question, which I know it all sounds to many people bizarre, but it's so true. Are you seriously, maybe you're not, are we seriously to believe that if hordes of women were continually transported from either Epstein's Island into whichever palace, or whether it's Sunningdale, where I lived, nearby is York Fork, as it was called, horrifics, now Tesco's, are we honestly saying that staff, family, not the Queen maybe, that nobody knew that this guy was just a serial, I don't know what to say, I don't know, pervert, I don't know, but I mean, every day there's a story. Are we supposed to believe that nobody knew this was going on?
Well, I think that they were scared of saying something, that's it. This man, you know, is incredibly scary to people. He can make people feel that they have to do what he tells them. And that's very difficult for people who've had a bad home or who feel very lack of confidence for themselves. And this man is very loving at first and then becomes a monster.
We have to point out that he denies all wrongdoing, but as the evidence stacks up and the accusations stack up, I just think that it's... I just, from a royal family point of view, Angela, I just wonder where and when it will end. Listen, it's an absolute joy. You've told us this morning, I know the headline, Meghan's created her own bog roll, but it hasn't got her face on it. Love your hair. I'll buy you a Dyson. Thank you, Angela Levin. Rob by Ogford. It's almost 5 to 10. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. As I said to you, we're lining up today. We're waiting for that, the publication of 1,000 documents from Downing Street. We're expecting that this afternoon from 3:30. Ian and Kev will follow that. Right now, Talk Breakfast. Back in 3.
They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
You know, you've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the streets.
This is the worst one I've ever come across. But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. So just to remind you, if you're tuning in to Talk, the home of common sense, those messages, all those texts and emails will be released at 3:30 this afternoon. We'll cover it all more on breakfast tomorrow morning. But on the way, the First Lady of everything, really, Julia Hartley-Brewer.
First Lady of everything.
Good morning.
I
how
like
are you?
that. So, you know, yeah, works for me. How are you this morning?
I'm very good.
Nice to see you.
Nicola Sturgeon, have you ever got a onesie?
Genuinely. It's been so... I mean, the memes... Can I just say?
I don't even know what it is. What's a meme?
All those wonderful things like Nicola Sturgeon trying to log onto those websites. You know, the catcher things. We have to go, you know, please tick every picture that has a picture of a motorhome in it.
Oh, yeah.
And like, she can't get onto any website anymore, can she? Because she just can't see them. It is absolutely extraordinary that she thought that soft, soapy interview with Laura Kunsberg yesterday was going to, like...
I agree with the person who said it was Prince Andrew's moment. That's like they,
totally.
But for me...
I'm the victim
I'm
here,
the victim.
Nick.
It's not even the stuff and the poor people of Scotland.
Yeah.
What it is this arrogant, opinionated, judgmental witch. Sorry.
No, I'm not having that.
All
I'm
right,
not
but
having
she
witch.
passed
Sorry.
judgment on everybody, and it's come back.
She's holier than thou.
Yes, great fright. And you know, in the end, my biggest thing is you've moved to England and you've argued for
You hate
Scottish...
the British. You hate English. You hate the English, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, the whole thing's ridiculous.